Chapter 1166. In the starry sky, Tiandao walked leisurely. Soon, she arrived in front of a pitch-black hall. Nether Palace. Tendo walked to the entrance of the palace. She glanced at the statues inside the palace, smiled, and whispered something. A moment later, one of the statues suddenly cracked, and a woman floated out, but it was not her real body. Tendo looked at the woman with a grave expression. "He is in danger now," the woman said. "He has his own life." Tendo quickly shook her head. No, his karma now was brought by your generation." The woman said, "How can he grow without some hardships?" Tendo sighed softly. "He is still a child." The woman, Tendo said. "You see, it is very unfair to him now. He is silently enduring pressure that he should not have to bear at his age. It is a bit cruel for you to stand by and do nothing." The woman looked at Tendo. "It is very troublesome for us to come to this place." Tendo smiled. "I know, I can open the door for you. With my help, it will not be too difficult for you to come here." The woman was silent. About 15 minutes later, Tendo smiled and left Nether Palace. After leaving the Nether Palace, she leisurely arrived at another place. Forbidden Zone for life in the four-dimensional universe. After Tendo entered the Forbidden Zone, she looked around. The surroundings were hazy. She could not see anything. At this time, a shadow suddenly appeared not far from Tendo. Tendo smiled. "I came uninvited, please forgive me." The shadow said, "Tendo, is there something you need?" Tendo nodded. "He is in danger." The shadow said, "What does it have to do with us?" Tendo smiled, did not say anything, turned around, and left. At this time the shadow suddenly said, "In this universe besides you, no one can kill him." Tendo stopped, she smiled. "Spirit Realm is taking action. Snatch the library." The shadow was silent for a moment, then said, "Understood." Tendo nodded and turned to leave. About an hour later, Tendo came to a river. There was a woman sitting on a rock by the river. She was holding a fishing rod and was fishing. Beside the woman were two other people. It was Yan Jia and Lian Qian. When the two women saw Tendo, a trace of surprise flashed in their eyes. Tendo walked in front of the three girls. She smiled. "Hello." The woman holding the fishing rod glanced at the Tendo and said with a smile, "What brings the Tendo here?" Tendo looked at the fishing rod lady and smiled. "Are you really going to ignore him?" The fishing rod woman said indifferently. "He's not the master." The Tendo laughed. "What do you mean?" The fishing rod woman said softly, "Mister will never come back." Tendo shook his head. "You're wrong." The fishing rod woman said softly, "Tendo, I know you are very good at bluffing. You can try." Tendo sat to the side and looked at the distant sky. She said softly, "What's your mister's objective?" The fishing rod woman fell silent. Heavenly Tao laughed and said, "What he wants to do, he can't do it himself. You should understand." The fishing rod woman looked at Tendo. "That woman killed Mister." Tendo smiled. "Is that why you haven't gone looking for him?" The fishing rod woman smiled. "Why would I go looking for him? I said it. He's not Mister." Tendo stood up and left. Lian Qian and Yan Jia wanted to say something but hesitated. At this moment, the fishing rod woman suddenly said, "You're giving up just like that?" Tendo shook her head. "I feel that your mister is very sad." The fishing rod woman suddenly looked at Tendo. In the next moment, the world turned pitch black like a black hole. At the same time, a formless pressure locked onto Tendo, but Tendo's expression was calm. The fishing rod woman looked at Tendo. Tendo smiled. "Isn't he sad? He used his life as the price to create eternal peace. But what happened in the end? In the end, the Tao laws that he created don't trust him." The fishing rod woman walked in front of Tendo and stared at Tendo. "I said it. He's not Mister." Tendo looked straight at the fishing rod woman. "Let me ask you, other than him, who else can fulfill your mister's wish?" The fishing rod woman looked at Tendo and didn't say anything. Tendo sneered. "Do I have to rely on you?" The fishing rod woman slowly closed her eyes. Tendo was expressionless. "You're not helping him. You're helping your mister. As for that plain-dressed woman, she destroyed all of your mister's vitality. But you should understand that it was your mister who schemed against her first. Moreover, who can say that he isn't your mister? It doesn't make sense for you to blame him and that plain-dressed woman. Because your mister was the first to play chess. In the end, that Yi Xian is the victim. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and left. Tendo hadn't gone any further when she suddenly stopped, and then she turned around to glance at the fishing rod woman. He does need your help now, but he doesn't necessarily need it. Once the study room is opened, he'll truly obtain your mister's inheritance. At that time, it won't be a problem of whether you acknowledge him, but whether he acknowledges all of you. Besides that, he was chosen by your mister, and he carries a heavy burden that your mister hasn't completed. He's your mister's last hope. As soon as she finished speaking, she waved her right hand lightly, and then the world returned to normal. Tendo glanced at the surroundings and said, "Of course, all of you've left Xiao Ta and regained your freedom. It's perfectly reasonable if all of you don't want to help him. It's up to all of you to decide what to do. He won't force all of you and neither will I." As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and vanished into the horizon. The fishing rod woman remained silent. Meanwhile, Lian Qian spoke abruptly. "Big sister, Yanjia and I are going to look for him." The fishing rod woman gazed at Lian Qian, and the latter spoke softly. "She's right. We aren't helping him, we're helping Mr. Moreover, I think that he is Mr." The fishing rod woman frowned slightly. "Why?" Lian Qian spoke in a low voice. "Because he was chosen by Mr." As soon as she finished speaking, she bowed slightly to the fishing rod woman. "Big sister, Tendo is right. Only he can complete Mister's last wish. I'm going to help him." Yanjia said. "Me too." As soon as they finished speaking, they glanced at each other, and then they turned around and left. Both of them had a rather good impression of Yi Xian, and coupled with the fact that he was a prophet, they didn't reject Yi Xian at all. Just as Tendo had said, it was because Yi Xian was chosen by Mr. The fishing rod woman remained silent at the side of the river. Tendo was walking slowly in the horizon. Right at this moment, the space in front of her suddenly split apart, and then a figure appeared before her. The figure gradually became material. It was Guan Yin. Behind Guan Yin, there was an old man. The moment the old man appeared, his divine sense directly locked onto Tendo. Tendo blinked. "So it's Stinky." "Oh. So it's Miss Guan. What's the matter?" Guan Yin smiled. "Originally, my plan was to get rid of Yi Xian first, and then deal with you guys. However, I realized that I was wrong. I should get rid of you first." Tendo said in a low voice, "That's not right. You should go and fight Yi Xian. He has the study room, but I don't." Guan Yin looked at Tendo. "His special constitution was caused by you, right?" Tendo suddenly raised her right hand. "I swear to the heavens that it was definitely not caused by me. It has nothing to do with me." Guan Yin stared at Tendo. "Swear to the heavens? You are Tendo. Are you swearing to yourself?" Tendo sighed. "Miss Guan, you really should go and find that Yi Xian." Guan Yin smiled. "We will go and find him. However, before that, I want to kill you first." She finally understood. This Tendo was the worst. She had to get rid of this Tendo first. Otherwise, he would always play dirty tricks in the dark. Tendo smiled. "Don't be like this. I have no enmity with you guys." Guan Yin suddenly said, "Kill." Just as she finished speaking, the space around Tendo suddenly split open. A dozen powerful auras suddenly appeared in the field. All of them were at the origin returning realm. Seeing this scene, the heavenly Tao blinked. "You're for real." Guan Yin smiled. "Of course." Finished speaking, she suddenly stabbed her sword towards Tendo. At this moment, Tendo turned and ran. With this run, she appeared hundreds of thousands of miles away. In the field, Guan Yin and the others were stunned. Running so fast? While they were stunned, Tendo had already disappeared from the fourth dimension. Back to the fifth dimension. Guan Yin and the others. Running so fast? Guan Yin did not choose to chase after him, because she realized that this Tendo was very strong. Although he did not make a move, she knew that he was not weaker than her. So strong. At this moment, an elder walked beside Guan Yin and said, "Young master, the most important thing now is to kill Yi Xian and get that study to solve the danger of spirit realm." Guan Yin looked at the sky and said softly, "We can't kill him." Originally, she was very confident because the plain-dressed woman had left. This Yi Xian's greatest support had left. But after fighting with Yi Xian twice, she knew that the plain-dressed woman was not the only one behind him. The elder said that Yi Xian is not simple, especially that woman who appeared before. This person's strength. But young master, rest assured, our people will arrive soon. Guanyin suddenly said, Spirit realm has allied? The elder nodded. Basically. Guanyin frowned. Basically. The elder said, the ancient race has not moved. I don't know what they are thinking. Guanyin was silent for a moment and then said, Return. Finished speaking, she led everyone and disappeared. Not long after Guanyin and the others disappeared, a young man suddenly appeared. Behind the young man was a black-robed elder. The young man looked into the distance and said, Elder, have you investigated? The black-robed elder nodded. Yes. Finished speaking. He pointed a finger and a black light entered the young man's forehead. About 15 minutes later, elder said, that plain-dressed woman has likely reached half-step soul release. The young man said softly, In my view, she has likely reached the legendary soul release realm. Elder frowned. How is that possible? The young man smiled. Why is it not possible? Just because we cannot do something does not mean others cannot do it. Elder said, What plans does young master have? The young man was silent for a moment and then said, I do not think the spirit of 9 race will win. Elder's expression changed. Young master, if you want to ally with Yi Xian, that is the same as becoming enemies with all of spirit realm. You cannot do this. Moreover, if everyone from spirit realm were to join forces, then Yi Xian would definitely not be a match for spirit realm. Even if that plain-dressed woman has reached soul release, she will still die. The young man was silent. At this time, the space in front of the young man suddenly split open and a woman walked out. It was Guanyin. Guanyin looked at the young man and smiled. You must be the ancient race's young master, Ancient Ming. The young man smiled. Greetings, Miss Guan. Guanyin smiled. Brother Ming, I know you are wary of that plain-dressed woman, but I know her true strength. Ancient Ming's eyebrows furrowed. You know her true strength? Guanyin nodded. I once fought with a little girl. That little girl said she was evenly matched with the plain-dressed woman. In my view, the plain-dressed woman's strength is at most half-step soul release realm. Of course, she is a swordsman, so her strength far surpasses an ordinary half-step soul release realm expert. Thus, as long as our spirit realm works together, what does a mere plain-dressed woman have to fear? Of course, Brother Ming can also bring the ancient race to ally with Yi Xian. But, if that happens, the ancient race's foundation in spirit realm. Saying this, she smiled but did not say anything. The primordial Ming said with a smile, What are you talking about, Miss Guan? How could the primordial race ally with Yi Xian? Saying this, he paused and then said, Is that plain-dressed woman really at most half-step soul release realm? Guanyin looked at Ancient Ming. If that little girl did not lie, then she is at most half-step soul release realm. Ancient Ming smiled. How does Miss Guan know she will not lie? Miss Guan shook her head. That little girl's avatar is so powerful. How could such an expert lie? It is impossible. Ancient Ming nodded. He understood. The strong are proud. Chapter 1167. Primordial Ming said after a moment of silence. Miss Guan, to tell you the truth, my father had me come down this time to meet with Miss Guan and discuss how to take this study. In the end, he gave up on the unrealistic idea of working together with Yi Xian. The ancient race could not afford to gamble. If the ancient race and Yi Xian worked together, they would immediately become the enemy of all the forces of spirit realm. As Guanyin said, the ancient race's foundation in spirit realm would be destroyed. And from the looks of it, the greatest threat to Yi Xian's side was the plain-dressed woman. If the plain-dressed woman was a self-release realm expert, the ancient race would dare to work together with Yi Xian. This was why the ancient race had not expressed their stance. Because the ancient race did not know the true strength of the plain-dressed woman. And as long as the plain-dressed woman was not a self-release realm expert, as the old man said, she would die. Spirit realm had the ability to kill a half-step self-release realm expert. Because spirit realm itself had a half-step self-release realm expert. After learning the true strength of the plain-dressed woman, Primordial Ming did not hesitate. The ancient race was strong in spirit realm, but they did not dare to become enemies with all the forces of spirit realm. They did not have the ability. There was no need to do so. Because right now, It seemed that Yi Xian's side could not become enemies with all of Spirit Realm. At this time, Guanyin suddenly smiled. Brother Ming, please. Primordial Ming nodded. Please. Soon, the group disappeared. Sword Sect. After Yi Xian returned to Sword Sect, he went to find Senior Sister Lu. At this time, Senior Sister Lu's injuries had mostly healed because of the purple energy. Inside the hall, Senior Sister Lu looked at Yi Xian. I received news that many experts have appeared in the Nether Spirit World, many. Yi Xian said gravely, they should be from Spirit Realm. Senior Sister Lu nodded. What do you think? Yi Xian went silent for a moment before he said, our sword sect won't be able to stop them. Senior Sister Lu said, yes. Yi Xian looked at Senior Sister Lu. What do you think, Senior Sister Lu? You're the young sect leader now. The sword sect will listen to you. Senior Sister Lu said. Yi Xian smiled bitterly. Senior Sister Lu, this is really too much. Senior Sister Lu looked at Yi Xian. Don't joke around. From now on, you're the young sect leader of the sword sect. The future of the sword sect is in your hands. Yi Xian asked in a low voice. Is Senior Sister Lu serious? Senior Sister Lu was expressionless. Do I look like I'm joking with you? Yi Xian fell silent for a moment before saying, our sword sect may not be able to defeat Spirit Realm, but what if we gather the power of the 5 dimensions? Senior Sister Lu shook her head. If all the cultivators of the 5th dimension came, they might be able to fight against Spirit Realm. However, you can't make them all come. Although if the sword sect perishes, they will also perish. Before the sword sect perishes, they will absolutely not come to help. Yi Xian nodded. I know. If it's not related to me, I'll let it go. But what if it's related to me? Senior Sister Lu looked at Yi Xian. What do you mean? Yi Xian said in a low voice. Benefits. Only benefits can move the people of the world. If they know that Spirit Realm. Senior Sister Lu suddenly interrupted Yi Xian. I understand what you mean. However, you have to know that Spirit Realm's target is you. Yi Xian nodded. I understand. To put it simply, if Spirit Realm came to find him, Yi Xian, it would be good if the people of the 5th dimension didn't gloat over his misfortune. Help. How could that be possible? Everyone was selfish. Senior Sister Lu suddenly said, of course if we die, they will also die. However, before that, they won't come to live and die with you. So, we can only rely on ourselves to resist Spirit Realm. Yi Xian said softly, all the experts of the sword sect, retreat to the dimension of nothingness. Senior Sister Lu looked at Yi Xian. If we leave, many people will die. Yi Xian looked straight at Senior Sister Lu. If we don't leave, all the people of the sword sect will die here. Senior Sister Lu was silent. Yi Xian stood up and walked to the gate of the hall. He said in a low voice, we were born in this universe. It is our responsibility to protect this universe. However, it is not only our responsibility. It is also the responsibility of the entire 5-dimensional universe. We need to unite, but I know that other than my friends in the dimension of nothingness, no one is willing to come. Since this is the case, we will retreat to the dimension of nothingness and let the experts of Spirit Realm in. As long as people die, as long as Spirit Realm threatens their interests, the people of this universe will unite. They will come to the dimension of nothingness to fight with us. Senior Sister Lu looked at Yi Xian. If we retreat, many people will die. Yi Xian turned around and walked to Senior Sister Lu. If we don't leave, all of us will die. If we die, everyone in this universe will die. Everyone. Senior Sister Lu was silent. Yi Xian said gravely, only when the people of this universe see the terror of the spirit race will they unite, and this universe will be saved. Because right now, Spirit Realm is very united, the 6th dimension is very united, but our 5th dimension is scattered. After a moment of silence, Senior Sister Lu said, what about Tendo? Yi Xian shook his head. I can't see through her, but I know that if she had to choose, she would choose all the living beings in the 5th dimension to perish together with Spirit Realm. What she wants to protect is not the people of this universe, but the universe itself. Therefore we need all the experts of the 5th dimension to unite. Only then will we be able to resist Spirit Realm. Senior Sister Lu was silent. Yi Xian continued, this battle is not only a matter of our sword sect, but also a matter of all the living beings in the 5th dimension. If we fight to the death, those people outside will take it as a matter of course, and some will even wish for us to die. Many people are like this. They will not be anxious until the blade falls on their head. The sword sect has guarded the spirit world for so many years. But now, the sword sect can no longer guard it. I can't call for help every time, can I? Speaking of calling for help, he really had a headache. Call for help every time? Damn it, where would so many people come from? Unless he called for the sword sect master and the plain-dressed woman, it would be meaningless. This was a battle between two universes. He had already thought about it. If the sword sect master didn't come out, all the swordsmen in the sword sect would die here. Once all the sword sect died, this universe would really be finished. Because right now, only the sword sect could resist spirit realm, but the sword sect swordsmen were too few. If there were 1,000 swordsmen, the sword sect might be able to kill their way through spirit realm, but the sword sect only had a little more than 100 swordsmen. Not to mention the other forces of spirit realm, just the Dark Een spirit race was enough to exhaust the sword sect to death. At this time, Senior Sister Lu suddenly said, "Are you sure?" Yi Xian said solemnly, "Before we retreat, I have decided to call for all the experts of the fifth dimension to come to the sword world to help. If anyone comes, we will defend here to our death. As long as this place is here, the fifth dimension will also be here." Senior Sister Lu nodded. "Okay." Soon, the sword sect's call was spread throughout the fifth dimension by the Wu clan and the Worldwide Academy. On the first day, all the experts of the Wu clan and the celestial race came, followed by the Worldwide Academy and Fu Wenzong, as well as the experts of the Great Desolation Kingdom, Mutated Beast Scripture and Supreme God also came to the sword sect. However, other than these people, there was no one else. Not even a single rogue cultivator. Yi Xian stood in front of the sword sect's hall, just standing there. On the third day, no one came. On the fourth day, still no one came. On the fifth day, still no one came. On the morning of the sixth day, Yi Xian suddenly turned and looked at Senior Sister Lu in the distance. "Everyone, retreat to the dimension of nothingness." Senior Sister Lu nodded. Soon, all the experts in the sword world retreated. In the starry sky, Yi Xian rode on his sword, his face expressionless. To be honest, he, Yi Xian, was not a savior. If he could kill the spirit realm in a second, he wouldn't mind doing so to protect this universe. However, he didn't have this ability. Do what you have the ability to do. Now, he just wanted to protect the people around him. When Yi Xian and the others retreated to the dimension of nothingness, Guan Yin left with the experts of the Yin spirit world. In the sky, Guan Yin looked into the distance. He wants to summon everyone in the fifth dimension to fight against us. Beside Guan Yin, the primordial Ming nodded. "If all the living beings in the fifth dimension fight against us, we won't be afraid, but it will be troublesome." Guan Yin nodded. The strength of the sword sect and Yi Xian couldn't be underestimated, especially Yi Xian, who would call people out from time to time. After a while, Guan Yin suddenly said, "Pass down my order, go straight to the dimension of nothingness, and don't hurt anyone on the way." A spirit of Dark Een was puzzled. "Why?" Guan Yin said indifferently, "If we kill people now, we will force all the experts in this universe to unite against us. But if we say that we are only targeting Yi Xian, the experts in this universe will just stand by and watch. After we get rid of the dimension of nothingness, even if all the experts in this universe join hands, they will still be a motley crew. Do you understand?" The spirit of Dark Een nodded slightly. "Understood." Guan Yin looked into the distance and said softly, "After reaching the dimension of nothingness, we can't attack. We can only surround it and wait for our people to arrive." After saying that, she looked at the primordial Ming. "What does Brother Ming think?" The primordial Ming nodded. "This is the safest way." Guan Yin smiled. "Let's go." After saying that, she directly led the spirit of Dark Een towards the dimension of nothingness. Along the way, the spirit of Dark Een did not kill anyone, which made many people in the fifth dimension who were originally worried feel relieved. Many people began to rejoice in others' misfortune. "Look, the target of the spirit realm is only Yi Xian, but Yi Xian wants to summon us to fight against the spirit realm. How vicious is his heart!" People are selfish. It's normal for Yi Xian to want us to sell our lives for him. Unfortunately, he has miscalculated. Yi Xian is looking down on the world too much. In the distant starry sky, a woman carrying a fish suddenly stopped. Soon, she continued to walk into the distance. Not long after, a sigh came from the starry sky. P.S. If you have to use one sentence to evaluate me, what would it be? Chapter 1168. The Dimension of Nothingness. The Spirit of Dark World Army did not attack. Instead, they surrounded the Dimension of Nothingness. In a hall of the Wu clan, all the experts gathered. The atmosphere in the hall was somewhat heavy. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian smiled and said, "Does anyone have any thoughts?" Amu looked at Yi Xian and said, "The current situation is very disadvantageous to us." A Qian nodded and said, "Yes, the most serious thing is that we do not know the true strength of Spirit Realm. However, they know our strength like the back of their hand. Since they were not making a move now, it was obvious that they were waiting for someone. Once all the experts of Spirit Realm come, our situation will be even more difficult." Amu said in a deep voice, "There is an even more serious matter. Right now, the majority of the experts in the fifth dimension are rejoicing in our misfortune." Hearing this, everyone's expression darkened. Everyone present was very clear that the attack of Spirit Realm this time was definitely not just aimed at Yi Xian. If Yi Xian died, the entire fifth dimension would be annihilated. They could understand this, but not everyone understood this. If it did not concern them, they would let it go. This was human nature. As long as the blade did not fall on them, they would not care about the life and death of others. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian said, "We can only rely on ourselves." Saying this, he looked at Senior Sister Lu and said, "Aunt Lu, does the sword sect have a sword formation?" Senior Sister Lu nodded and said, "Of course." Yi Xian nodded and said, "Set up the formation." Senior Sister Lu stood up and left. At this moment, a woman suddenly appeared outside the hall. Seeing the person, everyone present was a little stunned. The person who came was Demon Yen, who had disappeared for a long time. Demon Yen looked at everyone present and said with a smile, "Everyone, do you mind joining our demon race?" Everyone looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian looked at Demon Yen and said, "Miss Yen, why do you want to follow us? You should know that our current situation isn't very good." The demon eye walked into the hall. She looked at Yi Xian and said, "The Dark Spirit Tribe said that their target is you. They can only lie to those ignorant people. I know that if you die, everyone in the fifth dimension will die." Yi Xian was silent. Demon Yen said softly, "Although the demon clan is not as strong as the spirits of Dark One, we are not weak either." Yi Xian looked at Demon Yen. "Welcome." Demon Yen smiled and said, "Thank you." At that moment, an invisible pressure suddenly enveloped the entire void dimension. Everyone looked outside. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly vanished on the spot. Outside the void dimension, Yi Xian appeared in front of Guan Yin and the others. In front of him, there were countless Spirit of Dark Yin experts. In terms of peak experts, the Sword Sect was not any weaker than the Spirit of Dark One. In fact, they could even crush the Spirit of Dark One. However, in terms of numbers they were too inferior. Guan Yin looked at Yi Xian and smiled. "Young Master Yi, we meet again." Yi Xian looked at Guan Yin and suddenly disappeared on the spot. Chi! A bloody light flashed across the battlefield. In the distance, Guan Yin was expressionless. She punched out. Boom! A blood-red light exploded. Guan Yin instantly retreated several hundred feet. Seeing this scene, the expressions of the Spirit of Dark One turned gloomy. The primordial Ming looked at the blood-red sword in Yi Xian's hand. When he saw this sword, his expression gradually became solemn. The sword was the reason why Yi Xian's attack was so powerful. Otherwise, Yi Xian wouldn't have been able to suppress Guan Yin, who was at the energy convergence realm. At this moment, numerous strong people dashed out from behind Yi Xian. The swordsman from the Sword Sect was leading the charge. Yi Xian looked at Guan Yin and smiled. "Miss Guan, are energy convergence realm breakers so weak?" Guan Yin looked at Yi Xian and was about to speak. At this time, an elder beside her suddenly shouted, "How dare you? You are just." Guan Yin looked at Yi Xian and was about to speak. Suddenly, Yi Xian vanished on the spot, and he was in front of the old man when he appeared again. The old man's expression changed drastically, and he was just about to attack when a powerful force suppressed him. Sword domain. The old man was shocked when he was suppressed. He didn't think much and punched at Yi Xian's abdomen. Yi Xian didn't dodge and allowed the old man's punch to land on his abdomen. Bang! Yi Xian retreated 100 zhong, but the old man's head was sent flying. Blood spurted out. All the Spirit of Dark Yin experts were shocked. In the distance, Yi Xian forcefully swallowed the blood in his throat. He looked at the Spirit of Dark Yin experts coldly and said with disdain, "Are energy convergence realm breakers so weak?" Guan Yin looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian. Yi Xian suddenly pointed his sword at Guan Yin. "Don't talk nonsense. I don't want to waste my breath on you. Let me ask you, do you dare to fight one-on-one?" One-on-one. Guan Yin stared at Yi Xian. One-on-one? To be honest, she was no match for the current Yi Xian. Because Yi Xian was too much of a nemesis to her. Guan Yin was about to speak when Yi Xian suddenly laughed sinisterly. "Since you don't dare to fight one-on-one, then let's gang up on you. All Sword Sect disciples, listen to my command. Kill them all, don't leave a single one alive." Saying that, he took the lead and rushed out. Chi! A blood-colored sword light cut through the sky and slashed at Guan Yin. The might of this sword strike caused everyone in the surroundings to be visibly moved. It had to be said that the sword in Yi Xian's hand wasn't something the executing heaven sword and soul-suppressing sword could compare to. This sword could fight one-on-one against an energy convergence realm breaker. And when it teamed up with Yi Xian, an energy convergence realm breaker was no match for them. Seeing Yi Xian rush out with the sword sect experts, Guan Yin's face instantly darkened. This Yi Xian was going to fight them to the death. Yi Xian was going to fight them to the death before the Spirit of Dark Tribe experts arrived. And now was the best time for them to make their move. Because Yi Xian had just killed an energy convergence realm breaker. To the sword sect, their morale was soaring. Over 100 swordsmen were equivalent to over 100 sharp swords. They directly broke through the Spirit of Dark Tribe's formation. And Yi Xian, who was leading them, was unstoppable. To be more accurate, the Spirit of Dark Tribe experts couldn't do anything to Yi Xian because he could swallow the deathly aura and Yin Qi. After Yi Xian rushed into the Spirit of Dark Tribe experts, he didn't defend at all. The deathly aura of the Spirit of Dark Tribe experts was like a natural tonic to him. Just like that, Yi Xian led over 100 swordsmen to kill all the way. It was simply irresistible. At this moment, dozens of energy convergence realm breakers blocked in front of Yi Xian and the others. Dozens of people attacked together. Everyone's eyes were only on one person, and that was Yi Xian. Obviously, they wanted to kill Yi Xian. Seeing this scene, Lu Yunxian and the others' faces changed. They quickly rushed towards Yi Xian. However, it was still a little too late. Dozens of powerful forces directly arrived in front of Yi Xian. Yi Xian held his sword with both hands and slashed forward. Chi! A blood-colored sword light pierced through the air. Boom! That blood-red sword light directly exploded, and Yi Xian instantly retreated tens of thousands of feet away. Lu Yunxian and the others didn't attack again. They all retreated around Yi Xian and surrounded Yi Xian. At this time, the spirits of 9 dead powerhouses in the surroundings also came over and surrounded all of them. Guan Yin suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian and the others. Beside her, there were a total of 39 energy convergence realm breakers. Guan Yin looked at Yi Xian and smiled. "Yi Xian, you wanted to kill us in one go. Unfortunately, you underestimated us." As she spoke, she looked at Primordial Ming. "Brother Ming, please lead your experts into the void dimension. Don't leave a single one of them alive." The Primordial Ming looked at Yi Xian and nodded. In the next moment, he led the primordial race's returning realm powerhouses towards the dimension of nothingness. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly said, "Senior brother Lu, you kill your way back into the void dimension." Lu Yunxian looked at Yi Xian. "What about you?" Yi Xian smiled. "Listen to me." Lu Yunxian looked at Yi Xian. As she spoke, she led the experts from Sword Sect and charged into the void dimension. The Spirit of Dark Tribe experts wanted to stop them but were stopped by Guan Yin. Very quickly, the experts from Sword Sect rushed out of the Spirit of Dark Tribe experts' encirclement and returned to the void dimension. Meanwhile, Yi Xian was surrounded alone. Guan Yin looked at Yi Xian and smiled. "You want to stop us by yourself?" Yi Xian grinned. "Why not?" Guan Yin shook her head. "Without the Spirit of Dark Tribe, you are nothing." Yi Xian smiled. He pointed his sword at Guan Yin. "Without the Spirit of Dark Tribe, what are you? How about this? I won't devour your sword, nor will I devour your spirit of death qi. You and I will seal our cultivation and fight to the death. Do you dare? Guan Yin looked at Yi Xian and didn't speak. Yi Xian smiled. Why? You don't dare? Guan Yin shook his head. We have the upper hand now. Why should I fight you? I won't fight you alone. We will gang up on you. What can you do? Yi Xian laughed. Bring it on. As soon as he finished speaking, the blood in his body suddenly boiled. Very quickly, a blazing flame appeared around him. Bloodline power. Seeing this scene, the faces of Guan Yin and the other Spirit of Dark Tribe experts turned ferocious. The same bloodline aura. At this time, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. After a while, he suddenly opened his eyes. In his eyes, there was a sea of blood. Bang! A ray of bloodlight suddenly shot into the sky. In an instant, the entire starry sky was transformed into a sea of blood. At the same time, a mysterious force suddenly enveloped the entire starry sky, forming a domain with blood. At this moment, the blood sword in Yi Xian's hand suddenly trembled violently. At this moment, the aura of the sword actually rose sharply. Not only that, it was madly devouring the murderous intent and vicious aura around Yi Xian. Gradually, the murderous intent and aura it emitted were even stronger than Yi Xian's. One man and one sword. It was extremely strange. However, Yi Xian still retained a trace of consciousness. In the distance, Guan Yin stared at Yi Xian. At this moment, she felt danger from Yi Xian and the sword. Extremely dangerous. Yi Xian suddenly looked at Guan Yin. In the next moment, he vanished on the spot. Guan Yin's pupils suddenly shrank. She directly retreated and didn't take Yi Xian's sword. She wasn't confident that she could take it. However, as she retreated, the heads of dozens of spirits of 9 dead in front of her flew into the air. Blood gushed out like a fountain. At this moment, the blood sword in Yi Xian's hand suddenly trembled violently. A ray of bloodlight suddenly enveloped him. Then, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Don't wake up. Enter the state of madness. Don't stop until you die. Yi Xian was stunned. Whose voice is this? Soon, he figured it out. This is the voice of the sword spirit. Don't wake up? What nonsense is the sword spirit talking about? Does it have to go so far? At this moment, the sword spirit's voice sounded again. They want to kill your sister. Ah! Yi Xian suddenly roared angrily. In the next moment, the last bit of his consciousness disappeared. At the moment when the last bit of his consciousness disappeared, the blood in his body started to burn. In an instant, the entire starry sky was set ablaze. In the distant starry sky, the Tendo of the 5th dimension suddenly turned her head and looked down. Gradually, her expression became solemn. After a moment, she softly said, I almost forgot that your father is still alive. If your father becomes stronger, your bloodline will also become stronger. A growing bloodline. Damn, as long as your father doesn't die, your bloodline will have no upper limit. Damn it, aren't you cheating? Chapter 1169. As if he'd thought of something, Tendo shook his head. Success is due to the bloodline, and failure is due to the bloodline. As long as Yi Xian's father remained alive, his bloodline would continue to grow stronger. However, there was a critical problem. And it was how would Yi Xian reverse his bloodline? The stronger his bloodline grew, the more difficult it would be to reverse it. However, based on Yi Xian's character, he would probably not consider such a problem. He was quite carefree at most times. When he thought up to here, Tendo shook his head and smiled, and then he walked towards the distance. At the instant that Yi Xian lost all reason, the aura of Yi Xian's bloodline suddenly rose explosively. At this moment, the sword in his hand suddenly trembled violently, and it transformed into a ray of light that shot forward. Hiss! In the distance, a Returnance World Breaker Realm expert wasn't even able to react before he was instantly annihilated by the sword. Everyone in the surroundings was shocked when they witnessed this scene. Guan Yin's expression changed drastically as well. What's going on? Is Yi Xian actually so strong after losing all reason? The problem is how did that sword become so strong as well? Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly opened his right hand, and the blood-red sword flew into his grasp. He brought it up to his nose and sniffed it lightly, and it didn't take long for an intoxicated expression to appear on his face. The smell of blood. Guan Yin stared fixedly at Yi Xian, and then she suddenly waved her right hand. Kill! Attack together! As soon as she finished speaking, the spirit of Yin experts around her charged at Yi Xian. Meanwhile, Yi Xian raised his head and glanced at the surroundings. In an instant, an area of over 10,000 kilometers had been transformed into an ocean of blood, and the minds of some spirit of Yin experts within the ocean of blood had been corroded by a strand of killing intent and evil energy. As soon as their minds were corroded, those spirit of Yin experts immediately attacked the people around them. It didn't take long for the spirit of Yin experts to fall into chaos. Guan Yin's expression changed drastically when she witnessed this scene, and she gazed at Yi Xian and spoke furiously, Kill! Kill him first! The Dark Yin race's origin-returning Realmbreaker realm experts that were not corroded directly rushed towards Yi Xian. There were more than 30 of them. Yi Xian was just about to attack when the blood-red sword in his hand transformed into a ray of blood-red light that shot into the center of his forehead. Yi Xian's figure trembled violently. In the next moment, Yi Xian's right foot moved lightly to the right while he pressed his palms together, and then a sword silently condensed in his palms. It was that blood sword. When the return to origin-breaking world elites were 100 feet away from him, he slashed forward with his sword. A bloodlight came out. Boom! The 30 origin-breaking realm elites were forced to stop by the bloodlight, but in the next moment, the dozens of people became dozens of black lights and rushed at Yi Xian again. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly rushed over as well. Very quickly, a spirit of Yin expert punched towards Yi Xian's head, and the powerful force caused the space behind Yi Xian to explode. Yi Xian didn't dodge, and he allowed the punch to land on his head. However, at the same time, his sword pierced through the opponent's forehead. Chi! Bang! Yi Xian was instantly sent flying. As he flew, his body trembled violently, and his head was effectively deformed. However, when he stopped, his head had returned to normal. Guan Yin's expression instantly became extremely unsightly when he witnessed this scene. What kind of physical body was this? At this moment, Yi Xian rushed out again. In the instant he rushed out, another return to origin-breaking world elite was killed by him. He couldn't stop Yi Xian at all, because Yi Xian was exchanging a life for a life. If someone punched him, even if it was a punch aimed at his head, he would be able to block it. However, if he gave someone a sword, they couldn't block it at all. The sword in Yi Xian's hand was simply too abnormal. It could be said that even without Yi Xian, this sword could still defeat a return to origin-breaking world elite. What kind of demonic sword was this? Very quickly, there were already several return to origin-breaking world elites that had fallen. Towards Yi Xian, the spirit of Yin experts were also having a headache. This was because their deathly aura was useless against Yi Xian. Therefore, when they fought against Yi Xian, they couldn't use deathly aura, and could only use pure physical strength. Under such circumstances, their strength was discounted. It could be said that when they fought against Yi Xian, they could only use less than 60% of their strength. They had no choice, because any of their deathly aura and Yin aura would be absorbed by Yi Xian. Yi Xian's physical body was simply the nemesis of the spirit of Yin clan. In the distance, Guan Yin suddenly looked towards the dimension of nothingness. At this moment, the primordial Ming had already retreated. This was because his people were simply not a match for the sword sect. Guan Yin turned around and looked towards the horizon. After a moment, she frowned because she didn't feel any experts from the spirit realm. In other words, the experts from the spirit realm hadn't reached the 5th dimension yet. At this moment, another return to origin-breaking world elite from the spirit of Yin clan was pierced through the forehead by Yi Xian's sword. The moment the sword pierced through, the elite's soul was instantly destroyed. His soul couldn't even escape, because the sword had instantly destroyed all his vitality. If it was a normal sword, it definitely wouldn't be able to do this. However, the problem was that the sword in Yi Xian's hand wasn't a normal sword. This was a sword that had its own thoughts. Moreover, the battle experience of this sword could be said to be far beyond that of anyone present. Although Yi Xian had killed that return to origin-breaking world elite, he himself was also sent flying. Not only that, there was a deep knife wound on his chest. Those elites were also smart. You might be immune to death aura and sword, but you couldn't be immune to knives, right? Therefore they directly took out other weapons. However, they underestimated Yi Xian's self-recovery ability. The moment Yi Xian stopped, his body had already more or less recovered. Heart of life. As Tendo had said, as long as he wasn't instantly killed, he, Yi Xian, wouldn't die. As for the other spirit of Yin clan elites, they didn't dare to approach Yi Xian at all. This was because once they got close to Yi Xian, their minds would be eroded by Yi Xian's killing intent. Therefore, they all hid far away. When they saw one person fight against dozens of return-to-origin-breaking world elites, all the spirit of Yin clan's faces turned ugly. What kind of monster was this Yi Xian? At this moment, Guan Yin's face was also extremely ugly. She suddenly realized that she had underestimated Yi Xian. In the beginning, she was only afraid of the people behind Yi Xian and ignored Yi Xian himself. If this continued, it would be very disadvantageous for their side. At this moment, a spirit of Yin clan elder suddenly stood beside Guan Yin. The elder said in a deep voice, "His self-recovery speed is too fast. If this continues, we will be exhausted to death by him." Guan Yin looked at Yi Xian in the distance. After a moment, her expression turned ferocious. "Go catch his sister." In her intelligence, Yi Xian's sister was Yi Xian's weakness. Originally, she didn't want to use such despicable methods. But at this moment, she had no other choice. If she didn't catch Yi Ling, Yi Xian would be sent to heaven. Hearing Guan Yin's words, the elder shook his head. "No." Saying so, he looked at the dimension of nothingness. Sword sect. Guan Yin looked at the entrance of the dimension of nothingness. There, more than 100 swordsmen were waiting in formation. If they wanted to enter the dimension of nothingness, they would have to go past them. Guan Yin turned to look at the primordial Ming, who was not far away. The latter was silent. Guan Yin stared at the primordial Ming. "Brother Ming, my people will block the sword sect. Your people will go and catch Yi Ling. Is that feasible?" The primordial Ming hesitated for a moment and said, "Miss Guan, we should retreat." Guan Yin smiled. "Retreat? If we retreat now, more people will die." The primordial Ming was silent. Guan Yin looked at the dimension of nothingness. "Our current combat power is still far beyond them. We can fight." The primordial Ming was silent. Obviously, he was still hesitant. Guan Yin was about to speak, but at this moment, more than a dozen powerful auras suddenly came from the horizon. Guan Yin quickly turned her head. At this time, a middle-aged man wearing golden armor appeared in front of Guan Yin. The middle-aged man glanced at Guan Yin. "You are the Dark Yin tribe's young patriarch?" Guan Yin was about to speak when an elder's voice suddenly entered her mind. "He is from the Hellion tribe. His name is Hellion Lin, one of the 3 heroes of the Hellion family." Guan Yin looked at Hellion Lin. "So it is Senior Hellion." Hellion Lin turned to look at Yi Xian in the distance. When he saw Yi Xian's state, he frowned. "This is Yi Xian?" Guan Yin nodded. Hellion Lin sized up Yi Xian. "This person's bloodline is so strong." Guan Yin nodded. "This person's bloodline is far beyond my imagination. Especially his physical body. It is extremely strong." Hellion Lin said, "The study room is in his possession?" Guan Yin glanced at Hellion Lin, and then she said, "Yes." Hellion Lin suddenly vanished on the spot. In the distance, Yi Xian suddenly turned around and slashed down with his sword. Bang! An expanse of blood erupted. Yi Xian was instantly pushed over 1 kilometer back, and Hellion Lin was pushed over 300 m back as well. After he stopped, Hellion Lin looked at his right hand. A wound had split open on his right hand, and fresh blood was flowing out. Hellion Lin raised his head to look at Yi Xian in the distance when he saw this scene. He was about to speak when Yi Xian suddenly took a step forward. With each step he created a domain. Sword domain and blood domain. These 2 domains directly enveloped Hellion Lin. In the next moment, Yi Xian wielded his sword with both hands and slashed down. A ray of blood-red light flashed between the sword domain and the blood prison. Hellion Lin didn't dare act carelessly. He opened his right hand, and a black shield appeared in his grasp. He held the black shield in his hand and pushed it forward. Bang! The ray of blood-red light arrived, and the black shield instantly split apart while Hellion Lin was pushed over 300 m back. As soon as he stopped, the shield in Hellion Lin's hand exploded apart. Hellion Lin's expression became solemn, and he gazed at the sword in Yi Xian's hand. "What a formidable sword!" Meanwhile, Guan Yin suddenly said, "Senior Hellion, he really cares about his younger sister. If we can capture her, then he'll definitely surrender without a fight." Hellion Lin gazed at Guan Yin. "Where is his younger sister?" Guan Yin pointed at the entrance to the void dimension. She's in there. However, the experts of the sword sect are standing guard there. The experts of the primal race, and I can keep the sword sect and Yi Xian busy. Helian Lin fell silent for a moment before he said, "All right, I'll go capture his younger sister." As soon as he finished speaking, he led the experts of the Helian family towards the void dimension. Guan Yin suddenly said, "Stop the experts of the sword sect." As soon as her voice fell, countless spirit of 9 Yin and primal race experts charged towards the sword sect. After the sword sect was restrained, Helian Lin and the others arrived at the graveyard without a hitch. Helian Lin walked towards the graveyard. Not far away, the old tomb guard just watched. He didn't stop Helian Lin. In the distant starry sky, Tendo looked down and shook his head. Capture his younger sister? Say. His younger sister is the best fighter in the entire fifth dimension. Why aren't his younger sisters normal people? People with younger sisters cannot be provoked. Cannot be provoked. P.S. Yesterday, I asked you to evaluate me with one sentence. Damn, none of you said anything good. After accompanying me for so many years, am I a shameless and shameless person in your eyes? Chapter 1170. Before the grave, Helian Lin was expressionless. He was about to attack when a woman appeared before him. It was none other than Yi Ling. Yi Ling's eyes flickered with a dark light. Helian Lin smiled. "I think you are." Right at this moment, his voice stopped abruptly, because a hand was wrapped around his throat. Helian Lin was stunned. The experts of the Helian family were stunned as well. Helian Lin looked at Yi Ling and said in shock, "You." Meanwhile, Yi Ling exerted force with her right hand. Pest. Helian Lin's head was pulled off, and blood gushed out like a fountain. It was extremely bloody. Helian Lin's eyes opened wide. At this moment, his mind was blank. This is Yi Xian's younger sister? Why is she stronger than me? Yi Ling turned around and left after she killed Helian Lin. Meanwhile, a dark ray of light flashed by, and then over 10 bloody heads flew into the air in an instant. In the distance, Yi Ling opened her palm, and a thorn landed firmly in her hand. In the next moment, she entered the grave. The gravekeeper glanced at the heads around him and remained silent. After a short moment, he shook his head. Is there something wrong with these people? With that, he turned and left. In his opinion, the spirit of Yin tribe should be laughing secretly if the great god in the grave didn't come out. But these fellows still wanted to look for her. Weren't they stupid? Outside the spirit world, Guan Yin and the others were still restraining Yi Xian and the others. However, more and more spirit of Yin tribe experts were dying. Because Yi Xian was unstoppable. Even returning realm-piercing realm experts couldn't stop a single strike from Yi Xian because he was trading his life for theirs. He could take it, but those returning realm-piercing realm experts couldn't. Moreover, the primordial race experts were being suppressed by the sword sect swordsmen. The situation was getting worse for Guan Yin's side. As for Guan Yin, he stared at the void dimension. As long as he could capture Yi Ling, they would be able to reverse the situation. Right at this moment, an old man walked out. It was the gravekeeper. The undertaker gazed at Guan Yin, and he hesitated for a moment before he said, "I thought about it. I'll give it to all of you." With that, he waved his right hand, and a dozen bloody heads fell not far away from him. All of them were the heads of the Helian experts. Guan Yin's mind went blank when he saw this. All gone? The experts of the spirit of Yin in the surroundings had noticed these heads as well, and their expressions had instantly changed when they saw these heads. Panic. At this moment, they were panicking. In the distance, the primordial underworld's face had turned dark. Helian Lin was a veteran origin-breaking world-returning realm elite, and he was actually killed. Moreover, even the Helian family's dozen origin-returning world-breaking realm experts were killed. Who did it? The primordial Ming looked at the dimension of nothingness. He knew that there were still unknown experts inside. Guan Yin naturally knew who did it. It was that woman that resided within Yi Ling's body. She's still within Yi Ling's body. Guan Yin's expression became extremely unsightly when he thought up to this point. Guan Yin didn't hesitate at all and suddenly said, "Retreat! Retreat!" The spirit of Yin retreated when they heard Guan Yin. If they continued fighting, then they would definitely suffer heavy losses. However, when they retreated, Yi Xian didn't stop. Yi Xian directly chased after them. As he exerted his blood realm, countless spirit of 9 dead experts were corroded by his killing intent, and then they started to kill each other. Guan Yin suddenly spoke fiercely. "Stop him! The rest of us retreat." As her voice fell, more than 20 origin-breaking realm elites blocked in front of Yi Xian. At this time, the sword sex elites rushed out. However, Guan Yin charged directly towards the sword sex elites. Although she couldn't do anything to Yi Xian, she wasn't afraid of anyone other than Yi Xian. The war started again. In the distance, Yi Xian held his sword and slaughtered crazily. Whenever he met a returning to origin-breaking realm expert, he would exchange his life for his. However, those returning to origin-breaking realm experts had learned their lesson. They no longer fought with Yi Xian with their lives. They only restrained him. However, Yi Xian's blood realm was too disgusting. Because as long as they were covered by the blood realm, the spirit of Yin experts would have their minds eroded, and then they would kill crazily. Only shattering void tier elites could barely block the killing intent released by Yi Xian. Although Guan Yin, the primordial Ming, and the others forcibly blocked all the sword sex elites, Yi Xian alone also blocked all the spirit of Yin experts. On the battlefield, the situation was becoming more and more disadvantageous for the spirit of Yin. Right at this moment, the space in the distant starry sky was suddenly torn apart, and then a middle-aged man walked out from within it. The middle-aged man looked down at Yi Xian, and he was just about to attack when a woman appeared in front of him. "Xiao Dao." Xiao Dao looked at the middle-aged man. "I've waited for you for a long time." The middle-aged man looked at Xiao Dao. "Are you the young lady of the demon Dao family?" Xiao Dao said calmly. "What does it have to do with you?" The middle-aged man smiled. "I heard that you didn't want to marry, so your cultivation was sealed by the demon Dao family's patriarch, and then banished to the lower realm, is that right?" Xiao Dao was expressionless. "You guys know quite a lot." The middle-aged man smiled faintly. "Miss Xiao Dao, we have no intention of becoming enemies with you. Our target is only that Yi Xian below. If you step aside, we can live in peace. What do you think?" Xiao Dao looked at the middle-aged man. "No." The middle-aged man pondered for a moment and said, "Why?" Xiao Dao said calmly, "Because that guy below is a very kind person. He is kind, so I can't not be kind." After saying that, she directly disappeared on the spot. In the distance, the middle-aged man frowned slightly, and suddenly punched out. With one punch, the starry sky was destroyed. However, Xiao Dao didn't retreat at all, and she punched out again. In an instant, this expanse of the starry sky was blasted into nothingness. Xiao Dao and the middle-aged man retreated repeatedly, and they retreated for over 30 kilometers. After Xiao Dao stopped moving, she opened her palm, and a blood-red sickle appeared in her grasp. In the next moment, she transformed into a blood-red shadow that vanished into the starry sky. In an instant, the entire starry sky was covered in blood-red afterimages. The middle-aged man frowned when he witnessed this scene. He didn't dare act carelessly because she was once a genius of a clan of the demon Dao. The middle-aged man opened his palm, and then a black spear appeared in his grasp. He stomped his right foot lightly against the ground, and then he stabbed it forward. Hiss! A sharp and ear-piercing sound of something being torn apart resounded through the starry sky. Down below, Yi Xian and the experts of the sword sect were still fighting the spirits of 9 Yin to the death. Guan Yin, who was fighting desperately, had suddenly stopped, and then a voice resounded in her mind. "Retreat! Retreat!" Guan Yin raised her head, and it didn't take long for a ferocious expression to appear on her face. She knew that the experts of the spirits of 9 Yin had been stopped. "Xiao Dao!" Guan Yin didn't give it any further thought. She suddenly turned around and roared furiously. "Retreat! Everyone retreat!" Right at this moment, a blood-red ray of light suddenly slashed towards her. It was Yi Xian. Guan Yin's pupils constricted abruptly, and then she clenched her right hand into a fist and smashed it forward. Bang! An expanse of blood-red light exploded, and Guan Yin was pushed back by over 1 kilometer. Moreover, her right palm had been slashed off by Yi Xian's sword strike. At this moment, Yi Xian's strength could be said to be abnormal because the energy of his bloodline was causing him to grow stronger and stronger. There was no upper limit. So long as he was in a berserk state, then there was no upper limit to the strength of his bloodline. It could be said that his strength was growing stronger and stronger. Coupled with the sword in his hand, Ordinary Retenance Realm experts weren't a match for him at all. Especially the spirits of 9 because he completely countered the spirits of 9. Guan Yin was shocked when her right hand was slashed off by Yi Xian, because she suddenly realized that Yi Xian's strength was growing stronger and stronger. Most importantly, under the influence of Yi Xian's bloodline, the countless spirit of 9 experts in the surroundings were killing each other. Ordinary spirit of 9 experts didn't dare approach Yi Xian at all. What sort of bloodline is this? Guan Yin was extremely shocked in her heart. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly vanished on the spot. Guan Yin's pupils constricted abruptly when she witnessed this scene, and she suddenly gazed at the spirit of 9 experts in the distance. Retreat! She knew that if no one restrained this insane Yi Xian that stood before her, then they had no chance of victory at all. Countless spirit of 9 experts retreated when they heard Guan Yin. Meanwhile, Yi Xian had already charged over to Guan Yin. Guan Yin's left hand suddenly spread open, and a pitch-black shield suddenly appeared before her. Yi Xian's sword arrived before her. Bang! The shield exploded into pieces while Guan Yin retreated explosively by over 3 kilometers. As soon as she stopped moving, she turned around and waved her left hand lightly, causing a spatial rift to appear. In the next moment, she entered the spatial rift. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly charged into the spatial rift. The expressions of the experts from the sword sect changed drastically when they witnessed this scene, and they intended to pursue Yi Xian. However, the spatial rift had already closed up. Lu Yunxian's expression was slightly unsightly. Suddenly, senior sister Lu said, "Head to the Yin world." As soon as she finished speaking, she led the swordsman along as she shot into the sky. Destination: the Yin world. After Yi Xian charged into the spatial rift, he flew on his sword all along the way while Guan Yin dashed madly in the distance. She didn't dare fight Yi Xian at all. If Yi Xian couldn't devour her sword, then she could still fight Yi Xian. But the problem was that Yi Xian could devour her sword. As a swordsman, it was equivalent to her being crippled. Flee! What she had to do now was to flee back to the Yin world and start all over again. Yi Xian followed closely behind her, and his speed was growing faster and faster. A ferocious expression flashed through Guan Yin's eyes as she raised her speed to its limits. Around an hour later, the space in front of her suddenly split open, and then a strand of formidable death energy swept out. In the next moment, she entered that expanse of space. The Yin world! However, Yi Xian didn't stop, and it didn't take long for him to charge into the Yin world. As soon as he entered the Yin world, countless Yin spirit experts surrounded him, and Guan Yin was in the lead. Guan Yin gazed at Yi Xian. This is the Yin world. There was no spirit energy in the Yin world. So, it could be said that coming here was equivalent to courting death. Right at this moment, the Yin energy and death energy in the surroundings suddenly surged towards Yi Xian like tidewater. The Yin energy and death energy didn't corrode Yi Xian, and they were absorbed by Yi Xian instead. Guan Yin's face instantly turned pale when she saw this. If Yi Xian was allowed to absorb all the Yin energy and death energy in the Yin world. Chapter 1171. Kill him. Guan Yin's voice suddenly rang out. Her voice was a little crazy. She did not know what would happen if Yi Xian absorbed the deathly aura of the entire spirit world. However, she knew that it was definitely not a good thing for the spirit race. Hearing Guan Yin's words, the spirit race experts all rushed towards Yi Xian. At this moment, the sword in Yi Xian's hand suddenly shook violently. The next moment, a blood-colored sword light vibrated in front of Yi Xian. The few leading returning to breaking world realm powerhouses were directly pushed back. At this moment, Yi Xian was like a black whirlpool. The entire nether spirit world was filled with countless deathly and Yin auras that rushed towards him like a tide. In an instant, Yi Xian was drowned by the Yin aura and deathly aura. In the distance, Guan Yin stared at Yi Xian. Kill. The dozen returning origin-breaking realm experts beside her rushed over. At this moment, the space around Yi Xian became illusory. However, at this moment, the space Dao gathered between Yi Xian's eyebrows. The surrounding space instantly returned to normal. Seeing this scene, the returning origin-breaking realm experts' faces changed. They all retreated. Now they did not dare to get close to Yi Xian. Whoever dared to get close to Yi Xian would exchange his life with that person. Towards Yi Xian, these returning origin-breaking realm experts could not do anything. Not only was Yi Xian immune to the deathly aura, but he could also use the sword realm to break their suppression. Especially Yi Xian's space Dao. That Dao could solidify space. It made their breaking realm abilities useless. It could be said that Yi Xian's sword realm and space Dao were natural enemies of the returning origin breaking realm experts. What kind of freak was he? In the field, the returning origin breaking realm experts' faces were extremely gloomy. This Yi Xian was their natural enemy. Guan Yin stared at Yi Xian, who was furiously absorbing the death aura in the distance. No one knew what he was thinking. Actually, the most terrifying thing about Yi Xian was not his physical body, nor was it that blood sword. It was his bloodline power and his self-recovery ability. Ever since they started fighting with Yi Xian, the Dark Yin clan had already lost more than 10 return-to-origin-breaking realm experts. Before these return-to-origin-breaking realm experts died, they all inflicted heavy injuries on Yi Xian. However, his recovery was too fast, way too fast. Not only did he have a strong physique, but he also had a powerful self-healing ability. Most importantly, he was also a swordsman. How were they supposed to fight? At this moment, Guan Yin suddenly shouted, "Retreat!" All the Spirit of 9 Yin experts looked at Guan Yin. Guan Yin slowly closed his eyes. Retreat to Spirit Realm. Hearing this, the faces of the spirits of Dark Yin and the other powerhouses instantly became extremely ugly. I can't accept this. How could they accept this? The fifth-dimensional universe was within his reach. But now, because of Yi Xian, they had to give it up. However, they had no other choice. At this moment, Guan Yin suddenly inserted 2 fingers into her eyes. Chi-chi! 2 streams of blood shot out from her eyes. The faces of the Spirit of 9 Yin experts changed drastically. One of the Spirit of 9 Yin looked at Guan Yin and said in horror, "Young clan leader you." Guan Yin clenched her left hand tightly and said with a trembling voice, "I underestimated Tendo. I underestimated Yi Xian. This is my fault. Because of my fault, countless of my clansmen died tragically. Guan Yin cannot be forgiven." The Spirit of 9 Yin expert was about to speak when Guan Yin suddenly raised her head. 2 streams of blood tears flowed from her eyes. Arrogant. After reaching Origin Breaking Realm, I thought that no one in the 5th dimension was my opponent. What a joke. In terms of intelligence, I am not as smart as Tendo. In terms of strength, I am not as good as Yi Xian. Now, it seems that I am worlds apart from that woman in a plain dress. No, I am not even comparable to her. The funny thing is that I wanted to surpass her in the past. Ignorance is not scary because everyone has moments of ignorance. What is scary is not knowing that you are ignorant. Guan Yin, am really stupid. As soon as she finished speaking, a faintly discernible sword cry suddenly reverberated from within her body. At the same time, a powerful aura suddenly swept out from her body. Everyone in the surroundings was stunned when they witnessed this scene. She was going to break through. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the sky. Clear heart, clear mind, sword change. Making mistakes is not scary. If you know your mistakes and can change, it is the greatest virtue. Congratulations, lass. Hearing this voice, the origin-breaking realm experts hurriedly bowed to the sky. Greetings, clan leader. In the sky, the voice sounded again. Return to the spirit realm and think about it. Guan Yin looked at Yi Xian in the distance. Young Master Yi, we will meet again. After saying this, she turned around and left with the Spirit of Dark Yin experts. On the other side, the martial arts hall master Wu Congxing looked at the retreating Spirit of Dark Yin experts and pondered. At this moment, a voice came from behind him. Let's go. Hearing this, Wu Congxing was shocked. He suddenly turned around and saw a middle-aged man standing not far in front of him. Wu Congxing was shocked. Senior brother, when did you wake up? The person in front of him was the former martial arts hall master, Wu Jing. He was once one of the peak experts in the 6th dimension. Wu Jing looked at Yi Xian and said softly, "We underestimated Tendo, Yi Xian, and the person behind him." Wu Congxing frowned. The person behind him? Wu Jing looked up into the sky and said softly, "That woman almost destroyed the entire 6th dimension." Hearing this, Wu Congxing's face changed. So abnormal? Wu Jing looked at Wu Congxing. That woman is not a half-step self-release. She is at least a self-release expert. Saying this, he looked down at Yi Xian. Do you see this person's bloodline? This person's bloodline is not simple. I have never seen such a powerful bloodline in the 6th dimension. And the sword in his hand, it is an ordinary sword, but it is also a Dao sword, a sword that understands Dao. You can imagine how powerful its previous owner was. Whether it is the owner of the sword, the plain-dressed woman, or the white-robed woman, none of them are people we can fight. Wu Congxing said in a deep voice, "Are we going to give up?" Wu Jing looked at Wu Congxing. "If we don't give up, we will die." As he spoke, he raised his head to look at the starry sky and softly said, "Previously, I felt that the 6th dimension system wasn't good because it was very unfair to many people. But now it seems that the system there is already the best. Without that system, the 6th dimension might be like the 5th dimension and the spirit realm, having to go through the 5th dimension tribulation." 5th dimension tribulation. Wu Congxing's expression changed. Spirit realm also has to go through the 5th dimension tribulation? Wu Jing nodded. This is why they crazily fought over the books. If they want to survive, there are only 2 ways. One is to snatch the books and use the books to resist the 5th dimension tribulation. 2 is to go to the 6th dimension. However, the price to go to the 6th dimension is a little high. Because from the past, it seemed that Yi Xian was easier to bully. Unfortunately, they and we were wrong. This Yi Xian is not easy to bully at all, especially when the Tendo here is still on his side. Wu Congxing said in a deep voice, "If the 6th dimension is heavily wounded by that woman, does that mean that Spirit Realm may give up on Yi Xian and go directly to the 6th dimension?" Wu Jing shook his head. Even though it was heavily wounded, it was only the Union Hall that suffered. The forces of the 6th dimension did not lose many experts. Also, with the existence of the universe barrier, it will be difficult for Spirit Realm to enter the 6th dimension. Wu Congxing frowned. So they will still come to find Yi Xian? Wu Jing shook his head. If it were me, I would not come to find Yi Xian. However, Spirit Realm's strength and foundation far surpass us. Their thinking will definitely be different. No matter what, we can't continue this game of chess. Wu Congxing looked at Wu Jing. Senior brother, you mean to retreat? Wu Jing nodded. Retreat? Wu Congxing hesitated, then said, Yi Xian will seek revenge for the smallest grievance. I am afraid that Wu Jing said softly, let me end the karma between us. Then, he directly appeared in front of Yi Xian. Yi Xian opened his eyes and looked at Wu Jing. In his eyes, there was a sea of blood that made people shudder. Wu Jing smiled. Young Master Yi, you've swallowed a large amount of death qi and yin qi. These death qi and yin qi have accumulated in your body, and you won't be able to digest them in a short period of time. However, I can help you. With that, he pressed his right hand forward lightly. In an instant, an invisible force blocked the deathly aura and yin aura around Yi Xian. It was a good thing for Yi Xian to absorb the yin energy and death energy, but there was too much of them here. So much that his body could not absorb and digest them in time. If this continued, the death energy and yin energy would very likely kill Yi Xian. Just like eating, one bite at a time, if he swallowed them all at once, he would definitely choke to death. What Wu Jing needed to do now was very simple, which was to control the amount of yin energy that Yi Xian absorbed and let him digest it slowly. In the distance, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. At this moment, his death scripture cultivation method started to circulate again. In fact, after his physical body improved, the death scripture could not keep up with his physical body anymore. But now, the death scripture was playing an extremely important role. Just like that, time passed bit by bit. Half of Yi Xian's surroundings were red and the other half was black. The red was the power of his bloodline, while the black was the death energy and yin energy that he had absorbed. Under Wu Jing's guidance, not only did Yi Xian's devouring speed not slow down, but it also became faster and faster. Seeing this, Wu Jing's eyes flashed with surprise. He realized that he had underestimated Yi Xian's physical body. Yi Xian's physical body was extraordinarily strong. At this moment, a sword suddenly appeared above Yi Xian's head. Soul-suppressing sword. The soul-suppressing sword did not absorb it because Yi Xian's absorption was equivalent to its absorption. Just like that, one man and one sword crazily absorbed the death energy and yin energy of the entire yin spiritual world. And the aura of one man and one sword also became stronger and stronger. One day later, the death energy and yin energy of the entire yin spiritual world had become extremely thin, and this place was actually slowly becoming normal. At this moment, Wu Jing suddenly stopped. The moment he stopped, the body of Yi Xian in front of him trembled violently, and a powerful death energy swept out of his body. The immortal body mutated again. P.S. Yesterday, I met a reader who privately messaged me about the pirated version for a long time. In the end, we parted on bad terms. Regarding the pirated version, I've said before that if you have the ability, you should support the original version. I'm very grateful. A chapter is less than 10 cents. In order to save money for everyone, I only try to update 2 chapters a day, so that everyone can afford it. Why don't I update 3 chapters? Why did I break my promise of 3 chapters a day? Do you think I've forgotten my promise? No, I haven't forgotten. The reason why I didn't do that is because I'm afraid that you can't afford it. I'm afraid that you'll have financial pressure. I'm afraid that if you guys spend an extra 365 chapters a year, it will affect your lives. If it affects your families because of me, I'm willing to die 1,000 times. I'm really afraid. So, I'd rather go back on my words than put you in a difficult position because of me. Although this will always make me bear the blame, be blamed, and be misunderstood, I have no regrets, and I have a clear conscience. Finally, please vote. You still have to vote. Otherwise, you'll definitely feel guilty if you don't vote, right? Chapter 1172. Wu Jing took a deep and long glance at Yi Xian, and then he turned around and left. Yi Xian was still absorbing the Yin and Death energy, and the Yin and Death energy in the entire Yin spirit world was growing lesser and lesser. Around 2 hours later, Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes, and they were pitch black. He spread open his palm and pressed it down lightly. Bang! In an instant, the entire Yin spirit world was covered in countless strands of Yin and Death energy. The Death region. At this point, he possessed 3 types of domains: the Sword domain, the Blood domain, and the Death region. The Sword domain could suppress one's cultivation and the swordsman. The Blood domain could suppress one's bloodline and affect one's mind. As for the Death region, it could transform an expanse of space into a death prison. Just like the Yin spirit world from before, it was devoid of spirit energy and prohibited living beings from entering it. Besides that, his undying body had undergone another transformation. As long as the Death energy remained, his body was indestructible. It could be said that his undying body had surpassed the creator of the Yin spirit world. The Death energy that the Yin spirit world had gathered for countless years had benefited him in the end. Suddenly, the Death energy in Yi Xian's eyes transformed into an ocean of blood. His bloodline energy hadn't vanished, and it was so strong that even the Death region couldn't suppress it. The surroundings gradually transformed into an ocean of blood again. Moreover, his bloodline energy was still growing stronger and stronger. It had no upper limit. Right at this moment, a woman suddenly appeared here. Yi Xian suddenly slashed forward with the blood-red sword in his hand when he saw this woman. This slash caused a blood-red ray of light to traverse the heavens and the earth, and it directly split the heavens and the earth apart. Right at that moment, the woman suddenly tapped with her finger. That tap directly touched the ray of sword light. Bang! The ray of light instantly exploded apart. After that, the woman flicked her finger again, and this time, she tapped the center of Yi Xian's forehead. In an instant, the bloodline energy throughout Yi Xian's body withdrew like the tide. The woman sized up Yi Xian, and then she grabbed Yi Xian's shoulder and vanished on the spot. Not long after Yi Xian and the woman vanished, a black-robed middle-aged man suddenly appeared here. The black-robed man glanced at the surroundings, and then he turned around and vanished into the horizon. Spirit Realm. Spirit Realm did not belong to the 6th dimension, nor did it belong to the 5th dimension. It was a place that was independent of the 2 universes. In the past, the spiritual energy here was comparable to the 6th dimension, but now, it was similar to the 5th dimension. In the spirit realm there were 4 superforces. These 4 superforces ruled over the entire spirit realm. The first was the spirit race. The spirit race could be said to be the overlord of spirit realm because they had 3 half-step self-release realm experts. They were the faction with the most half-step self-release realm experts. The second was the ancient race. The ancient race had 2 half-step self-release realm elites. They had 1 less than the spirit dark race, but they had the most return to origin-breaking world elites. It could be said that if the half-step self-release realm elites did not appear, the ancient race could crush any faction. The third was the Holy Hall. The Holy Hall was a sect with many believers. They controlled almost all the countries of Spirit Realm and had the greatest influence in Spirit Realm. The fourth was the Banished Immortal Island. The Banished Immortal Island was an extremely special power, and there were 2 sects on the island. One sect used the sword, the other sect used the saber. Most importantly, since ancient times until now, these two sects had always only passed down a single disciple. There had always been only 2 people on the island. Although there were few people, no faction dared to underestimate the banished immortal island because these 2 people could really fight. The spirit race. In a garden, there were 3 people sitting at a stone table. These 3 people were the spirit race's patriarch Guansheng, the ancient race's patriarch Tai Gu Yuan, and the Holy Hall's Pope Baizong. Not far away, there were 3 people standing. They were Guan Yin, Tai Gu Ming, and a woman wearing a black robe. The woman was barefoot, and her hands were hidden in her sleeves. She lowered her head slightly and muttered. At this time, the spirit race's patriarch Guansheng suddenly smiled and said, "You too, I won't beat around the bush. Right now, our spirit realm only has 2 paths. First, gather all our forces to attack the 6th dimension. Second, kill Yi Xian, take the book, and use the book to resist the 5th dimension calamity. What do you 2 think?" Tai Gu Yuan said softly, "The 6th dimension has a cosmic barrier. Moreover, it is too far away from us. We have no chance of winning. Even if we win, it will be a Pyrrhic victory. As for this Yi Xian, the person behind him is not simple. If we fight to the death with him, it will be a heavy loss." Guanxing suddenly looked at Baizong and said, "Pope, what do you think?" Baizong said softly, "I heard that Yi Xian is a cruel person. He kills people at the slightest provocation." At this point, he suddenly sighed softly. His face was full of compassion and compassion. The beings in the 5th dimension are under this person's rule. I can imagine how miserable they are. I think we should go to the 5th dimension and save those beings. At the side, Tai Gu Yuan shook his head. "Robbing is robbing. This guy makes it sound so dignified." Guanxing smiled and said, "It seems that we have the same idea. Go to the 5th dimension." At this time, Baizong suddenly stood up and bowed to Guansheng. "Brother Guan, I have a presumptuous request." Guansheng hurriedly said, "Brother Baizong, if you have something to say, just say it. I can't accept such a big bow." Baizong looked at Guansheng and bowed again. "Brother Guan, if we go to the 5th dimension, please show mercy. Don't devour the people and beings there. They are all lives. They should not be trampled on." Hearing this, Guansheng's expression became calm. This guy was negotiating with him. Baizong wanted to take the 5th dimension for himself and make them his believers. Guansheng smiled and did not speak. At this time Baizong said, "If we get that study room, the Saint Hall will not take it." Guansheng squinted his eyes. "Really?" Baizong nodded and sighed. How can a study room compare to the lives of countless beings? In the distance, Tai Gu Yuan glanced at Baizong and thought that he was an old fox. The Saint Hall did not have the ability to take the study room. Guansheng smiled and said, "I think we should first talk about the person behind Yi Xian. Yi Xian is nothing to worry about for now, but we have to be on guard against the person behind him." As he spoke, he gazed at Guan Yin and said, "Little girl, you tell us." Guan Yin bowed slightly to the 3 of them, and then he said, "There are 4 people behind Yi Xian. One of them is Tian Dao. Even though Tian Dao hasn't acted against us spirits of 9 Yin, the reason why Yi Xian's physical body is so formidable is related to her. Moreover, she's been playing tricks in secret. The second is that white-robed woman. She's appeared in the form of a clone in the past, and she's extremely strong. She's at least at the quasi-void realm. The third is that Xiao Dao. She's the eldest young miss of the Devil Dao clan. If her strength recovers completely, she'll be at the quasi-void realm at least. As for the Devil Dao clan behind her..." Guansheng suddenly shook his head. "Don't worry, the Devil Dao clan won't act for her." Guan Yi nodded slightly and said, "The last person is that woman in a plain dress. Her strength is probably at the quasi-void realm." Quasi-void realm. The 3 of them frowned when they heard this. At this moment, Primeval Yuan suddenly shook his head. "Impossible." Guan Yin gazed at Primeval Yuan. Primeval Yuan smiled and said, "If she's already at that level, then she's entirely capable of sweeping through our spirit realm and the 6th dimension. With her relationship with Yi Xian, she has every reason to do so. However, she hasn't done so. There's only one explanation. She hasn't attained the quasi-void realm." Guanxing nodded. That makes sense. If she's attained the quasi-void realm, then not to mention the fifth dimension, even the sixth dimension wouldn't be a match for a single strike of her sword. Moreover, according to my knowledge, she isn't from the sixth dimension. How could a self-release realm expert appear in a place like the fifth dimension? As he spoke, he gazed at Guan Yin. Little girl, why do you think she's at the quasi-void realm? Guan Yin said in a low voice. A feeling. Guan Xing asked again. Have you ever fought with her? Guan Yin shook her head. I haven't. However, I've fought a little girl. That little girl's physical body is extremely powerful. She once said that she was evenly matched with the plain-dressed woman. If she wasn't lying, then the plain-dressed woman's strength should be at the half-step self-release realm. Primeval Yuan suddenly said. Then it makes sense. That woman should be at the half-step self-release realm. However, she's a swordsman, and a super swordsman at that. Her combat strength is definitely stronger than an ordinary half-step self-release realm expert. Just like the two from the banished immortal island. Hearing this, Guan Shang and Baizong's expressions changed slightly. The banished immortal island also had a peerless swordsman. Moreover, she was also at the half-step self-release realm. Her strength could be said to be able to suppress any one of the three of them. This was why the banished immortal island only had 2 people but was able to become one of the 4 great forces. Baizong suddenly said, Did Brother Guan not invite them? Guan Shang smiled bitterly. I did. But I didn't get any response. Why don't Brother Baizong go invite them? Baizong immediately shook his head. The island is filled with women. It's not convenient for me to go. Guan Shang glanced at Baizong. It's not convenient for you to go? It's because you don't dare to go. Swordsmen all had bad tempers and attacked at the slightest provocation. It could be said that the banished immortal island was the place that the 3 great forces didn't want to offend at all. Guan Shang spoke abruptly. In this way, it would seem like the woman in a plain dress is the greatest threat to us. However, she has already left this world. In other words, only the minor Taoist, the Heaven Tao, and a Luo remain. As he spoke, he stood up and said, These 3 people are nothing to worry about. However, we still can't underestimate them. So, I suggest that we send all our experts to the 5th dimension. I mean, we can't hold back at all. After we deal with Yi Xian, we'll settle down in the 5th dimension, and then we'll use the library to plot against the 6th dimension. What do the 2 of you think? Primeval Yuan fell silent for a moment before he said, All right. Guan Shang gazed at Baizong. Baizong suddenly said, What if that woman in a plain dress is at the self-release realm? Guan Shang was stunned, and then he smiled and said, So what if she's at the self-release realm? Could it be that the 2 of you don't want to fight a self-release realm expert? Moreover, if the 3 of us join forces, then so what if she's at the self-release realm? To be honest, if we're really able to fight a self-release realm expert, then we might even be able to advance a step further. His voice was filled with invincible confidence. Chapter 1173. 3 Working Together. Hearing Guan Shang's words, Taiga Yuan and Baizong nodded slightly. The 3 of them had reached half-step self-release 10,000 years ago. While they had never seen a true self-release realm elite, in their view, if the 3 of them worked together, they definitely had a chance to kill a self-release realm elite. Soon, the countless elites of Spirit Realm headed towards the 5th dimension. Among them, there were 3 elites half a step into the self-release tier, and there were a total of 149 origin returning tier elites, as well as over 1,000 shattering void tier elites. Below them, there were tens of thousands of rulers. This lineup could be said to be 100 times stronger than the 5th dimension. Clearly, Spirit Realm was determined to obtain the 5th dimension and Yi Xian's study. After an unknown amount of time, Yi Xian opened his eyes. What entered his eyes was a familiar face. Tendo. Tian Dao blinked. You're awake. Yi Xian took a deep breath. You saved me. Tendo smiled. Sort of. Yi Xian sat up and looked at Tendo. Where are the spirit race? Tendo picked up an apple and took a bite. Then he said, They returned to Spirit Realm. However, they have come again. Also, they have brought all the elites of Spirit Realm. Clearly, they chose you between the 6th dimension and you. Yi Xian said gravely, All the elites of Spirit Realm? Tendo nodded. There is good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear? Yi Xian glanced at Tendo. Bad news. Tendo smiled and said, "The bad news is that all the elites of Spirit Realm have come. Among them, there are 3 half-step self-release realm elites, 149 origin-shattering realm elites." Yi Xian suddenly said, "Tell me the good news." Tendo blinked and then smiled. "The good news is that none of the 3 best fighters of Spirit Realm have come." Yi Xian was a little curious. "The 3 best fighters?" Tendo nodded. "There are 2 from the Banished Immortal Island. Besides the Banished Immortal Island, there is also an old man with a bamboo chest on his back. This old man is quite mysterious." Yi Xian looked at Tendo. "You seem to know Spirit Realm very well." Tendo smiled and said, "I know quite a bit about the 6th dimension." Yi Xian said after a moment of silence, "The 5th dimension definitely cannot defeat Spirit Realm, right?" Tendo nodded. "Judging from the current situation, you have no chance of winning." Yi Xian looked at Tendo. "Miss Mu, can you point out a way?" The Tendo smiled. "Sure. Your best choice right now is to leave this place and go to the 5th dimension. If you want to leave, I can open the door for you and let you go to the 6th dimension." Yi Xian said solemnly, "Can I bring my friends with me?" The Tendo shook her head. "No." Yi Xian was slightly puzzled. "Why not?" The Tendo smiled. "Because they are weaker than you. Your body can resist the power of the universe barrier, but they cannot. However, you can take some people with you. For example, your lovers." Yi Xian shook his head. "No." The Tendo was slightly puzzled. "Why?" Yi Xian said gravely, "The Worldwide Academy, Fu Wenzong, the Wu clan, the Tian race, and many of my former friends from the next realm." The Tendo spread his hands. "Then you only have one choice. Stay and fight Spirit Realm. However, you really have no chance of winning." Yi Xian was silent. The Tendo suddenly said, "Do you remember what I once told you? Do what you have the ability to do. Don't do things that overestimate yourself." Yi Xian said softly, "There are some things that you know you cannot do, but you have to do it." The Tendo smiled. "I respect your choice." Yi Xian looked at the Tendo. "Miss Tendo, why is Spirit Realm attacking the 5th dimension?" The Tendo put the apple in her hand to the side and then smiled. "Because a few super experts of Spirit Realm did something. Not long ago, they destroyed the spirit of Spirit Realm. No, they swallowed the spirit of Spirit Realm in order to reach the legendary self-release realm. Pity they were wrong. To reach self-release, it is not something that can be done by swallowing spirit energy. Of course, swallowing that spirit is also very beneficial to them. However, after the spirit of Spirit Realm disappeared, the spirit energy of Spirit Realm sharply decreased. Simply put, Spirit Realm activated its self-protection mode, which is the 5th dimension calamity. They also have to face the 5th dimension calamity." Yi Xian said gravely, "Even they can't stop the 5th dimension calamity." The Tendo smiled. "They can. If those top experts are willing to sacrifice themselves, they can stop it. Of course, they can only save a portion of the people. However, do you feel that they will sacrifice themselves?" Yi Xian suddenly took out the book. He looked at the Tendo. "Can this thing really stop the 5th dimension calamity?" He had asked this question once before, but he still asked it again. The Tendo looked at the book in Yi Xian's hand and nodded. "It can." Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression relaxed slightly. At this time the Tendo said, "But it is useless." Yi Xian was puzzled. "What do you mean?" The Tendo smiled but did not speak. Yi Xian was speechless. The Tendo smiled. "To tell you the truth, this book does have a way to stop the 5th dimension calamity. However, do you know why the prophet chose to disappear?" Yi Xian shook his head. "I don't know." The Tendo softly said, "Because he knew that it could only treat the symptoms and not the root cause. Therefore he chose to do so. And this book of yours can stop the 5th dimension calamity. But what happens after that? Will the 5th dimension calamity not appear?" "It will." Yi Xian was silent. The heavenly Tao chuckled and said, "Don't think too much about it. This tribulation isn't something you can change, nor is it something that anyone can change. As you said, just protect yourself and the people you care about." Yi Xian smiled. "That's true. I don't want to think too much." Then, he cupped his fists at the Tendo. "Thank you for saving me. Miss Mu, we won't be enemies in the future, right?" The Tendo mischievously smiled. "That's hard to say. Because people's standpoint will change. Maybe one day you will want to kill me. Yi Xian smiled. I hope that day will never come. The Tendo smiled but did not speak. Yi Xian said, I still have a lot of things to do. Goodbye. Then, he stood up and left. At this time the Tendo suddenly said, Use the Tendo sword well. Yi Xian turned to look at the Tendo. The Tendo smiled and said, They might come to attack me. I have to hide for a few days. Be careful. Yi Xian hesitated, then nodded. Take care. Then he turned into a sword light and disappeared into the distance. The Tendo walked out of the house. She looked at the sword light on the horizon, faintly smiled, and then left. In the starry sky, the Tendo walked very slowly. At this moment, a black-robed middle-aged man suddenly appeared not far away from her. The black-robed man looked at the Tendo. The patriarch wants to invite Sire Tendo to the spirit-dead tribe for a cup of tea. The Tendo hurriedly shook her head. This is a Hongmen banquet. I won't go. The black-robed man was expressionless. What if I force you to go? The Tendo suddenly slapped out. Boom. Before the black-robed man could react, he turned into ashes. One slap to kill an origin-breaking realm-returning realm expert. The starry sky suddenly became very quiet. The Tendo clapped her hands before shaking her head and sighing. Actually, I'm also very powerful, okay? Why can't you guys pay more attention to me? Every time you guys look down on me, I'm a bit embarrassed. Hee hee. Then, she seemed to have thought of something. She suddenly put her fingers together and drew a line. A sword light tore the space where the black-robed man was. Then, she skipped and disappeared into the distance. About 15 minutes later, an old man suddenly appeared on the scene. The old man glanced at the surroundings, and in the end, he slowly closed his eyes. A moment later he frowned slightly. The sword energy was killed by Yi Xian. After saying that, he disappeared on the spot. Wu clan. After Yi Xian returned to the Wu clan, Amu and the others all let out a sigh of relief. Yi Xian directly gathered all the experts of the sword sect and the void dimension. In the hall, Yi Xian sat at the head. Yi Xian looked at everyone. Let me tell you a piece of bad news. All the experts of the spirit realm are attacking. At this speed, they will reach our universe in at most 2 days. Hearing this, everyone's expressions immediately darkened. Yi Xian continued, There is even worse news. That is, our current strength is definitely not a match for the spirit realm. Everyone looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled and said, However, we have no choice. In the hall, someone suddenly asked, Can we surrender? Hearing this, everyone's expressions became strange. Yi Xian smiled and said, Other than me, all of you can surrender. As he said, everyone present could surrender, but Yi Xian could not. Not only did they want the study house, they also wanted his life. At this time, Amu suddenly said, The Wu clan will not surrender. A Qian also said, The Celestial clan will not surrender. At the side, Tai Yi hesitated and then said, Little friend Yi. Yi Xian looked at Tai Yi. Tai Yi smiled apologetically. We have discussed it. We want. Yi Xian suddenly said, I understand. Senior Tai Yi and the others can leave on their own. Tai Yi glanced at Yi Xian and nodded. Thank you for your understanding. Take care, little friend Yi. After saying this, he left with the ancient gods. However, there was one person who did not leave. This person was Yi Xian's old acquaintance, Shen Gong. Yi Xian looked at Shen Gong and said with a smile, Senior Shen Gong, are you not leaving? Shen Gong's face was expressionless. I'm not leaving. Yi Xian was slightly puzzled. Why? Shen Gong said indifferently, I want to live and die with you. Everyone. Yi Xian was also stunned. Is this guy crazy? Shen Gong slowly closed his eyes and said no more. Tai Yi did not believe Yi Xian, but he did. Based on the current situation, Yi Xian's side really did not have any advantage. However, he would always remember the woman in a plain dress and the white-robed woman. He disdained the half-step self-release realm experts and the spirit domain. He only believed in the woman in a plain dress. As far as he was concerned, that woman was invincible. The spirit domain was trash before those two women. P.S. I suddenly realized that the readers don't seem to be very poor. Chapter 1174. Everyone was surprised by Shin Gong's decision. This guy trusted Yi Xian a lot. Even Yi Xian himself was surprised. This guy was not leaving? Seeing everyone looking at him, Shen Gong suddenly said angrily, "Stop looking. I'm not leaving." Everyone. Yi Xian's expression was a little strange. He glanced at Shen Gong, and then turned to look at Demon Yen and God Emperor not far away. Demon Yen smiled slightly. "I'm not leaving either." Yi Xian smiled and said, "I'm a little surprised." Demon Yen looked at Yi Xian. "Do you want us to leave?" Yi Xian shook his head. "I respect your choice." Demon Yen smiled and said, "Our choice is to advance and retreat with everyone." Like Shen Gong, she had seen the power of the plain-clothed woman and the white-robed woman. Compared to Spirit Realm, she was more willing to believe in the white-robed woman and the plain-clothed woman. And most importantly, Yi Xian had the study room. Since she could not get the study room, then she would follow the person who had the study room. This was her idea. In the distance, Yi Xian withdrew his gaze. He glanced at the battlefield. Only the Sword Sect, Fu Wenzong, the Celestial Race, the Wu Clan, and the Worldwide Academy were left. These forces obviously wouldn't leave. Yi Xian stood up. He looked outside the hall and said softly, "It seems that we can only fight with our backs to the wall." In the battlefield, everyone's expression was solemn. Because from the current situation, they had no chance of winning. At this time, Yi Xian stood up and left. Soon, Yi Xian came to the starry sky and took out the human ruler seal. At this time, Amu appeared beside Yi Xian. Yi Xian looked at Amu and said with a smile, "You once told me that the human ruler seal can summon the 12 generals, right?" Amu nodded. "Yes." Yi Xian smiled and asked, "How do I summon it?" Amu pointed at the man-ruler seal. "Ask it." Yi Xian looked at the man-ruler seal in his hand and slowly closed his eyes. Soon, the man-ruler seal in his hand began to tremble. At this moment, 12 phantoms suddenly appeared in the distant starry sky in front of Yi Xian and Amu. In the next moment, 12 phantoms appeared directly in front of Yi Xian and Amu. Seeing these 12 phantom images, Amu's expression immediately turned grave. The 12 of them were not alive, but they were extremely strong. They were all experts at the peak of the origin-returning realm-shattering realm. The 12 of them looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian raised the man-ruler seal and the 12 of them immediately knelt on one knee. Yi Xian said softly, "Everyone please rise." The 12 of them stood up. Yi Xian kept the man-ruler seal and looked at Amu. "I still need to go somewhere. Want to go together?" Amu smiled and said, "Of course." Yi Xian smiled and looked at the 12 of them. The 12 of them immediately turned into 12 golden lights and entered the man-ruler seal. Yi Xian brought Amu and disappeared from the scene. Not long later, Yi Xian and Amu arrived at the endless underground city. Yi Xian and Amu walked into the pawn shop. Xiao Dao was still there. Yi Xian walked to the front of the counter. He looked at Xiao Dao. "Do you have any helpers?" Little Daoist pointed to a place not far away, where a woman stood. One-legged woman. Yi Xian smiled and said, "Are there any more?" Xiao Dao shook his head. "The others are not up to standard." Yi Xian was silent. Xiao Dao suddenly said, "You can go find the Tendo." Yi Xian shook his head. "I just separated from her." Xiao Dao looked at Yi Xian. "What did she say?" Yi Xian smiled and said, "She said she can let me go." Xiao Dao said indifferently, "You refused?" "Yes." Yi Xian nodded. Xiao Dao nodded slightly. "Since you choose to stay, then prepare yourself." Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. "So pessimistic?" Xiao Dao said softly, "Spirit realm is not so simple. The only one who can destroy them is that plain-dressed woman. However, she is not here. Unless you can call her back." Yi Xian smiled and said, "Then it's over." He could not contact the plain-dressed woman at all. Xiao Dao nodded. "Then go elsewhere and see if there are any helpers." Yi Xian smiled and said, "All right." Finishing, he left with Amu. At this time, Xiao Dao suddenly said, "I can only fight a half-step self-release realm. 50-50. Yi Xian turned to look at Xiao Dao. "Thank you." Finishing, he left with Amu. Inside the pawn shop, the one-legged woman looked at Xiao Dao. Do we have a chance of winning? Xiao Dao said coolly. Yes, no. The one-legged woman did not frown. Speak human. Xiao Dao looked at the one-legged woman. If the plain-dressed woman returns, Spirit Realm will be destroyed. If she does not return, we will be destroyed. It is so simple. The one-legged woman was slightly displeased. Then why drag me into the water? Xiao Dao said coolly. You are the only one here who can fight. If not you, who should I drag? The one-legged woman raised her middle finger at Xiao Dao. I despise you. Finishing, she turned and left. Inside the pawn shop, Xiao Dao shook his head and smiled. Amidst the stars, Yi Xian walked slowly with Amu. Amu suddenly smiled. Are you worried? Yi Xian nodded. Yes. Amu suddenly said, I think we just need to try our best. Try our best. Yi Xian smiled. We can only try our best. Saying that, he stopped and looked at his abdomen. Senior 9th floor, are you still there? No response. Yi Xian shrugged. He said, Brother, don't tell me you're gone. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from within Yi Xian's body. I am breaking through. It was 9th floor's voice. Breaking through. Yi Xian was struck dumb. Then he said, Are you going to level up? 9th floor said, I have. Yi Xian. The 9th person suddenly said, Kid, are you in some kind of trouble? Yi Xian quickly said, No, no. 9th floor said angrily, No, my ass. Of course there is. Forget it, just treat it as I am sleeping. Saying that, the pagoda fell silent. Yi Xian quickly said, Don't, senior. I have encountered a small problem. Really a very small problem. I need your help. No response. Yi Xian was silent for a moment, then sighed. Forget it, those are all half-step self-release realm experts. With senior's strength, I'm afraid it is not enough to deal with them. Forget it. Senior should stay inside. It is safe. 9th floor sneered. Amazing. In such a short time, the opponents have gone from ruler realm to half-step self-release realm. Why don't you ascend to the heavens? Yi Xian smiled. Speaking of which, senior, what realm are you in now? 9th floor said calmly, I am very weak, really very weak. Yi Xian said seriously, Senior must be joking. Miss Tendo said that among all the experts in the 5th dimension, Senior can be ranked in the top 3. Top 3. After a moment of silence, the person on the 9th floor said, Did she really say that, or are you trying to fool me? Yi Xian hurriedly said, Every word is true. He told me to be on guard against you, saying that you are very powerful. If you have evil intentions towards me, I will be finished. Why don't I believe what you're saying? Yi Xian was speechless. The 9th person suddenly said, Speaking of which, this universe doesn't seem to have any half-step self-release experts. Yi Xian said, From Spirit Realm. The 9th tower said gravely, Did you provoke Spirit Realm? Yi Xian shook his head. I didn't provoke them. They were the ones who wanted to snatch the study room. The man on the 9th floor said, Where's the lady in the plain dress? Tell her to destroy them. She can destroy Spirit Realm with one strike. Yi Xian said helplessly, She left. The 9th person was a little puzzled. Gone? Where did he go? Yi Xian said. He seems to have gone to a very, very far place. In any case, he is very, very far away from us now. The 9th person said, Just wait for your death. Yi Xian, Amu, Yi Xian said gravely, Does Senior know of Spirit Realm? The 9th person said, He knows about Dao Yi. Yi Xian was a little curious. Senior even knows about Spirit Realm. The 9th person said calmly, Not only do I know, I have been there. Been there. Yi Xian's heart shook. Senior has been to Spirit Realm? The 9th person was silent for a moment, then said, That place is not so simple. If they want to snatch your study room, you will be in danger. Especially when the plain-dressed woman is not there. You have no hope. Yi Xian said, Can Senior destroy them? The 9th person snickered. Yi Xian was delighted. Can. The 9th person said angrily, Can? Do you think I am a plain-dressed woman? That I can destroy a universe with a swing of my sword? Big brother, please, Don't think too highly of me. I am just a normal person. A very, very normal person. Yi Xian sighed in a low voice. The ninth person suddenly said, I am really, really weak, but, hearing this, Yi Xian's eyes lit up. But what? The ninth person said, I will help you stop a half-step self-release realm expert, but I need you to help me. Yi Xian was puzzled. What help? The ninth person said gravely, I have reached a limit. It will be very, very difficult to break through, but it is not without hope. I need someone to guide me. Yi Xian smiled. I understand. The ninth person said coolly, Little guy, I have to tell you, even so, you cannot beat Spirit Realm. You should run now. Yi Xian shook his head. If I am alone, I will run, but I have many people with me. At the side, Amu looked at Yi Xian and smiled slightly. The ninth person sighed. Why did you not let the plain-dressed woman help you destroy Spirit Realm? Yi Xian said with a smile. I think I can face everything. The ninth person sighed again. You can face a hammer. All the experts of Spirit Realm attacking together is not something you can fight. Yi Xian smiled slightly. Regardless of whether we can or not, we have to face them now. We have no other choice. The ninth person was silent. Yi Xian suddenly said, Senior only needs to stop a half-step self-release realm expert. If Senior feels we have no chance of winning, you can leave at any time. The ninth person was about to speak when Xiao Dao suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. Xiao Dao looked into the distant space. They are coming. Yi Xian looked into the distance. At the end of the space, powerful attacks were coming. The entire fifth dimension was shocked. Chapter 1175. He's here. In the starry sky, Yi Xian looked at the distant horizon, and then disappeared. There was not a trace of death aura in the former nether spirit world. At this time, countless powerful auras appeared in this world. Soon a voice sounded. He can absorb death aura. The speaker was Guan Shang. Beside him were the Holy Church's sect master Baizong, ancient races ancient Yuan, and countless elites of Spirit Realm. Among them, there were 3 half-step self-release tier elites, 149 origin-breaking tier elites, and more than 1,000 shattering void tier elites. And there were tens of thousands of rulers below them. It could be said that the difference in strength between the fifth dimension and Spirit Realm was like heaven and earth. At this time, Guan Yin, who was beside Guan Shang, suddenly said, This person can not only absorb death aura and Yin aura, but also swords, sword chi, and sword intent. His physical body is extremely strange. She paused and then said, As far as I know, his physical body should have been cultivated with the help of that Tendo. Fifth dimension Tendo. Guan Shang looked into the distance and chuckled. Tendo? At this time, a man in black suddenly appeared in front of Guan Shang and said in a low voice, Patriarch, the person we sent to capture Tendo has been killed. Guan Shang frowned. Tendo killed him? The man in black shook his head. I felt sword chi at the place where the battle took place. It should be Yi Xian's doing. Yi Xian. Guan Shang smiled. What a great Yi Xian. I never thought that such a genius would appear in this universe. Guan Yin suddenly said, Be careful of Tendo. Guan Shang looked at Guan Yin, and Guan Yin said in a low voice, This person is not simple. I suggest we deal with him first, or else there will be endless trouble. Guan Shang looked up at the starry sky, and he could see the end of the starry sky. A moment later, he slowly closed his eyes. Divine sense search. A moment later, Guan Sheng frowned and opened his eyes, a trace of doubt in them. Baizong suddenly said, You can't find it? Guan Sheng nodded. I can't find it. This Tendo is interesting. Baizong glanced at the surroundings, and then he said, There aren't any fluctuations in the spirit energy here. Obviously, she hasn't left this world. Since she's here, then you should be able to find her with your strength. Immemorial Yuan said with a smile. Maybe it's because the other party has some secret technique to conceal heaven's secrets. Guan Yin shook his head. Seniors, this Tendo isn't simple. We shouldn't underestimate him. Taiga Yuan looked at Guan Yin and said with a smile, Guan girl's words are reasonable. However, our objective this time is the study room. As for that Tendo, it won't be too late to deal with her after we deal with Yi Xian. Guan Yin wanted to say something but hesitated. From her point of view, Tendo was the real threat, but at this moment, it was inconvenient for her to say anything. If she said anything, she would be talking back and being impolite. Guanxing suddenly said with a smile, "Brother Yuan is right. Our true objective this time is to obtain the study room. After we obtain the study room, as for that Tendo," as he spoke, he looked up at the stars and said with a smile, "As for that Tendo, I can destroy her with a flick of my finger." Destroy with a flick of my finger. In the distant stars, Tendo suddenly stopped. She turned around and said, "Tui! Damn it, can't you pay more attention to me? You're still so arrogant after suffering so many times. You really are a bunch of idiots. How could this great ant have such stupid opponents like you?" At this time, a voice came from not far in front of her. "So it's Miss Tendo." The person who spoke was Wu Jing. Beside him was Wu Zongxing. Tiandao took a look at Wu Jing. "Your injuries have basically recovered. Congratulations." Wu Jing cupped his fists. "It's all thanks to Miss Tendo's help." Tendo smiled. "I won't beat around the bush with you. What do you think about Spirit Realm's trip to the 5th dimension?" Wu Jing smiled slightly and did not speak. Tendo looked at Wu Jing. "Do you know how strong that plain-dressed woman is?" Wu Jing said softly, "At least Earth Escape 1. Tendo suddenly said, "More than that." Hearing this, Wu Jing and Wu Zongxing's expressions changed. Tendo smiled. "I'm not lying." Wu Jing's right hand slowly clenched. "How is that possible?" Tendo shrugged. "Think about it, she has already left the 6th dimension, and left so easily." Wu Jing was silent. Tendo smiled. "If I'm not wrong, you are actually guessing that she is above Earth Escape 1, but you are not willing to think in that direction because you think it is too inconceivable. Am I right?" Wu Jing looked at Tendo. Miss Tendo's eyes are like a torch. Tendo smiled slightly and was about to speak when Wu Zongxing suddenly said, "Then why did Miss Tendo tell us that she is at most half-step Earth Escape Realm?" Clearly, he still could not let go of the fact that he was tricked by Tendo. If he had gone back then, he would probably be gone too. Tendo looked at Wu Zongxing and smiled. "At that time, you and I were enemies. Isn't it normal for enemies to fight to the death?" Wu Zongxing's mouth twitched. He was speechless. Tendo looked at Wu Jing. "Do you know Yi Xian's true identity?" Wu Jing nodded. "It is related to the prophet." Tendo shook her head. "You are wrong." Wu Jing looked at Tendo and smiled. "Miss Tendo, why don't you say what you want to say?" Tiandao faintly smiled, and then said in a serious tone, "His true identity is actually the son of the plane of the 9-dimensional universe." 9th dimension. Wu Jing and Wu Zongxing were speechless. Tendo blinked her eyes. "You don't believe me?" Wu Zongxing looked at Tendo and did not speak. Wu Jing smiled bitterly. "Miss Tendo, this," Tendo sighed softly, "I know you don't believe me. Let me ask you, can the two of you take one sword strike from that plainly dressed woman?" Wu Jing shook his head. "No." Saying this, the smile on his face became even more bitter. Because he already knew that the guardian of the 6th Dimension Alliance Hall was killed, moreover by one sword strike. That sword strike directly injured the 6th dimension. This level of strength is even more terrifying than a god. Tendo said again, "The two of you were in the 6th Dimension Alliance Hall, so you should know the history of the 6th dimension like the back of your hand. Has there been such a powerful expert in the 6th dimension?" Wu Jing hesitated, then said, "The 6th dimension has had Earth Escape experts, but none of them could destroy the entire universe with a wave of their hand." Tendo nodded. "So, do you think she is from the 5th or 6th dimension?" Wu Jing did not know what to say. Tendo smiled. "I will tell you the truth, both Yi Xian and she came from the 9th dimension." Wu Jing and Wu Jing, Tendo said seriously, "the plainly dressed woman came from the 9th dimension. She is the strongest expert of the 9th dimension, and Yi Xian is the son of the plane of the 9th dimension, the person she wants to protect. You must want to ask why they came to this lower universe. I will tell you. It is because an unprecedented super expert appeared in the 9th dimension." Wu Jing frowned. "An unprecedented super expert?" Wu Jing frowned. "An unprecedented super expert?" Tendo nodded. "Yes, the appearance of this expert caused the 9th dimension's orthodoxy to collapse. The order became chaotic. In short, it is 100 times more terrifying than the 5th dimension calamity. In order to protect the son of the plane, Yi Xian, the plainly dressed woman had no choice but to escape to our 5th dimension." Wu Zongxing suddenly said, Then why didn't she take Yi Xian back to the ninth dimension? Also, why did she want to return to the ninth dimension? The Will of Heaven looked at Wu Zongxing and said, "You asked two good questions. Let me tell you. First, Yi Xian is not strong enough. She put him here for two reasons. One is to hide from trouble, and the other is to train him so that he can grow. Don't you feel that Yi Xian's life is like cheating? Look at him. He is only 20 years old, but whether it is talent or luck, it can be described as heaven-defying." Wu Zongxing hesitated, then said, "That is true." Tendo nodded. Second question, the reason why she wanted to return to the ninth dimension is because there is a small problem. She wants to go back to deal with it. Before she left, she told me to take care of Yi Xian. She will be back soon. Wu Zongxing looked at Tendo. "You helped Yi Xian because of her?" Tendo said seriously, "Of course. This is a great good karma. I have to grasp it." At this time, Wu Jing hesitated, then asked, "Miss Tendo, is there really the ninth dimension?" Tendo blinked. "Of course there is. We humans are actually very small in this universe like dust, and our understanding of the universe is like a frog at the bottom of a well. Our understanding of this world is limited. The question you asked me is like a frog at the bottom of a well, thinking that the world is only as big as the mouth of the well, but it is not. If it jumps out of the well, it will find that the world is infinitely big, the universe is infinitely big." Saying this, she looked at the two. "If we look up now, we can at most see the sixth dimension, which is like a frog at the bottom of a well." Wu Jing looked at Tendo. "Miss Tendo said so much. Is it because you want us to help Yi Xian?" Tendo shook her head. "I want to show you a clear path." Wu Jing smiled. "I feel that our best choice now is to wait and see." Tendo looked at Wu Jing and smiled. "Then I was wrong. Goodbye." Saying this, she turned and left. Wu Jing hesitated, then said, "Miss Tendo, if you want to say something, you can say it directly." Tendo stopped and smiled. "Previously, your goal was to return to the sixth dimension, but now, there is an enormous opportunity in front of you, not to return to the sixth dimension, but to the ninth dimension." To the ninth dimension. Wu Zongxing's eyelids twitched. Isn't this too crazy?" Tendo smiled. "Crazy? There is something even crazier. Wu Jing, you are now half a step into the self-release realm. Don't you want to reach the self-release realm?" Hearing this, Wu Jing's expression changed. Self-release realm. Tao of Heaven said, "Here, reaching the self-release realm is very, very difficult, but in the 9 dimensions, reaching the self-release realm is very, very easy. Because their martial arts civilization is hundreds of times higher than ours. And now, there is a peerless opportunity in front of you. Follow Yi Xian, and you can go to the 9th dimension." Wu Jing looked at Tendo. "Ling domain is very strong." Tendo spread her hands. "The plain dress girl almost destroyed the 6th dimension with one sword strike. How many sword strikes do you think Ling domain can take from her?" Wu Jing was silent. Wu Zongxing was a bit moved. "P.S. Do you know who I am? Actually, I am not an ordinary person. As long as you give me a monthly ticket, this good karma will be formed between us. In the future, I will bring you to fly. This opportunity does not come twice." Chapter 1176. How many times could Spirit Realm withstand her attacks? Tendo's question silenced Wu Jing and Wu Jing. She almost destroyed 6th dimension with one attack, and in terms of strength, there was no one in Spirit Realm stronger than 6th dimension. In other words, she could also destroy Spirit Realm with one attack. Even Union Hall couldn't withstand one attack from her. Tendo looked at the two and smiled. "Of course, I don't mean to force you. It's up to you to choose." Then, she turned and walked away. At this time, Wu Jing suddenly said, "Your Excellency Tendo." Tendo turned and looked at Wu Jing. Wu Jing looked straight at Tendo. "Spirit Realm has no reason to kill Yi Xian." The Heavenly Tao understood what Wu Jing meant. She smiled and said, "Because they think that they can beat the woman in the plain dress." Wu Jing shook his head. "Retards. Plain dress woman. Let alone the plain dress woman, Spirit Realm couldn't even defeat the white-robed woman who had helped them before. Beat the plain dress woman? Spirit Realm was really a bunch of retards. 6th dimension was almost destroyed by the plain dress woman in one attack. However, the strong of 6th dimension and Tendo didn't even dare to fart." Tendo continued, "Of course the plain dress woman can't come back for now. It can be said that Yi Xian is in danger now. As for the two of you, I'll be straightforward. If the two of you want to improve further, Yi Xian is your best choice. Also, don't think about waiting and watching.
Then she smiled. Will sixth dimension let you go?
Sixth dimension. Wu Jing was silent. The current higher realm didn't have the capital to fight against sixth dimension. Tendo smiled. But what if you go with Yi Xian? Will sixth dimension dare not let you go? Then she turned and left. Wu Jing and Tendo were silent. Wu Zongxing suddenly said, I think she's tricking us. Wu Jing said softly, she didn't hide this, but we have to fall into her trap. As he spoke, he looked at Wu Zongxing. If you had to choose between Spirit Realm and Yi Xian, who would you choose? Wu Zongxing answered without hesitation, Yi Xian.
We can only choose him.
Wu Jing chuckled. Wu Zongxing remained silent. They would never choose Spirit Realm because they were afraid of the plain-dressed woman. If that woman came back, who would be able to withstand it? And if he did not choose either side, how would he face the sixth dimension in the future? Therefore there was only one choice, and that was to choose Yi Xian. As the Tendo said, if they chose Yi Xian, the sixth dimension would not dare to target them. Wu Zongxing suddenly asked, are the plain-dressed lady and Yi Xian really from the 9 dimensions? After a moment of silence, Wu Jing said softly, perhaps. Because Yi Xian's life. Just like what the Tendo said, it's really like cheating.
And that woman in the plain dress.
That strength, it doesn't seem to belong to the human world. Wu Zongxing raised his head and looked at the starry sky.
His eyes were filled with a trace of confusion. The 9 dimensions.
Don't say, I really want to go and have a look.
Wu Jing suddenly said, gather everyone.
After that, he turned and left. After the Tendo left the upper realm, she did not return to the 5th dimension. Instead, she slowly came to the 6th dimension's cosmic barrier. The Tendo looked at the cosmic barrier and said with a smile, this concerns the life and death of the 6th dimension, do you want to hear it? At this time, a shadow suddenly appeared on the cosmic barrier. The 6th dimension Tendo. The 5th dimension Tendo said with a smile, this is the first time we meet, right?
The 6th dimension Tendo nodded. Yes.
The 5th dimension Tendo smiled. My name is Moon Yen Yen. And you? The 6th dimension Tendo pondered for a moment and said, I don't have a name. The 5th dimension Tendo blinked. Why don't you call yourself Mu Monxiang? The 6th dimension Tendo, Moon Yen Yen giggled. I'm just joking. This time, I came to tell you that the spirit realm is attacking the 5th dimension. The 6th dimension Tendo looked at Moon Yen Yen. That should be your business. Moon Yen Yen shook her head. Their goal is Yi Xian. You know that little guy, right? The 6th dimension Tendo was silent. At this moment, she thought of the plain-dressed woman. That was her brother. Moon Yen Yen looked at the 6th dimension Tendo. The spirit realm wants to rob his study room and kill him. What do you think? The 6th dimension Tendo shook her head. It has nothing to do with me. That is the spirit realm's business. Moon Yen Yen suddenly said, tell me if he is killed by the spirit realm, what will happen? The 6th dimension Tendo looked at Moon Yen Yen. She should go to the spirit realm for revenge. Moon Yen Yen looked at the 6th dimension Tendo smiling. What if she knows that you will not do anything? The 6th dimension Tendo hesitated, then said, this matter has nothing to do with me. Moon Yen Yen said again, do you think she is a reasonable person? The 6th dimension Tendo was silent. Reasonable? That woman is unreasonable. Moon Yen Yen looked at the 6th dimension Tendo. Let me tell you, if he dies in the hands of the spirit realm will be finished, and your 6th dimension will also be finished. The 6th dimension Tendo looked at Moon Yen Yen. This is unreasonable. If the spirit realm kills him, what does it have to do with us?
Moon Yen Yen shrugged. You can go reason with her when the time comes.
Then she turned and left.
At this time, the 6th dimension Tendo suddenly said, wait.
Moon Yen Yen looked at the 6th dimension Tendo. The 6th dimension Tendo was slightly angry. The spirit realm hit her brother, she should go to the spirit realm. She has no reason to come to me. Moon Yen Yen spread her hands. When she was in the 6th dimension, the one who offended her was the Union Hall, but she heavily injured the 6th dimension's origin with one blow. The 6th dimension Tendo was silent. Moon Yen Yen sighed. You should understand, she is unreasonable. If one person hits her brother, she will destroy the entire universe. This is very unreasonable, but there is no other way. We cannot beat her, don't you think? The sixth dimension Tendo looked at Moon Yanyan, her brow furrowing. I really do not understand, why would the spirit realm attack him? Don't they know that woman is very powerful? Moon Yanyan blinked and then said, they feel that they can beat the plain-dressed woman if they work together. What? The sixth dimension Tendo's eyes widened. They really think so? Moon Yanyan nodded. The sixth dimension Tendo suddenly stomped her foot and said angrily, so stupid. How can they beat that woman? That woman has already surpassed the self-release realm. As she said this, she looked at Moon Yanyan with slight disbelief. Did the people of spirit realm absorb so much death energy that their brains became abnormal? Moon Yanyan was slightly helpless. They think so, I can't do anything about it. The sixth dimension Tendo hurriedly said, you can persuade them. Moon Yanyan shook her head. I can't. The sixth dimension Tendo was slightly puzzled. Why? Moon Yanyan sighed again. Because they are looking for me everywhere, wanting to kill me. Right, the spirit of spirit realm has been swallowed by them. Hearing this, the sixth dimension Tendo frowned. They would do such a stupid thing? Moon Yanyan nodded, slightly helpless. They think they can fight against the plain-dressed woman if they work together. The sixth dimension Tendo was silent for a moment and said, how about I take him to the sixth dimension? Moon Yanyan shook her head. He is not willing to go. The sixth dimension Tendo was slightly puzzled. Why? Moon Yanyan said seriously, he is a person who values friendship and loyalty. He has many good friends down there. He is not willing to give them up. The sixth dimension Tendo hesitated and then said, I cannot take his friends up. You know, there are spatial turbulence between the universe barriers. Normal people cannot stop it. Moon Yanyan nodded. I know. The sixth dimension Tendo looked at Moon Yanyan. Then what should we do? We can't let spirit realm kill him, right? Moon Yanyan was silent, her brows tightly furrowed, thinking about something. The sixth dimension Tendo asked, do you have a way? Moon Yanyan sighed. I do have a way. The sixth dimension Tendo hurriedly asked, what way? Moon Yanyan looked at the sixth dimension Tendo. The way is for you to send some people down to help fight. The sixth dimensional wielder of the will blinked. Should I send someone down? Moon Yanyan nodded. Yes. The sixth dimension Tendo shook his head. No, with this universe barrier they cannot go down. Moon Yanyan said, if we work together, we can let some people pass through this universe barrier. The sixth dimension Tendo was slightly hesitant. Moon Yanyan smiled. You know, he is still weak now, he can't beat so many people from spirit realm. If you don't help him, he is dead for sure. The sixth dimension Tendo glanced at the universe barrier behind him, and then said, you know, although this barrier separates the people below from the top, it is also protecting the people below. If we work together to open it, Moon Yanyan smiled. It is only a temporary opening. Send some people down, of course some with brains. What do you think? The sixth dimension Tendo thought for a moment, and nodded. Okay. Who do you think should come down? Moon Yanyan said. Let's send the Union Hall. The sixth dimension Tendo frowned slightly. Is it appropriate? They were attacked by that plain-dressed woman. Moon Yanyan smiled. It is appropriate. Because they respect that plain-dressed woman, they do not dare to act recklessly after coming down. Moon Yanyan thought for a moment, and then nodded. How about this? I will send a half-step self-release realm expert and 10 origin returning realm and breaking realm experts down, a total of 11 people. Moon Yanyan was silent. The sixth dimension Tendo hurriedly said, we have more experts, but not all of them listen to me. I am very good friends with the Union Hall's one hall master. I have confidence that she will help. Also, only with her people going down, I will be more at ease. Otherwise, if other half-step self-release realm experts go down, I am afraid they will harm your universe. Moon Yanyan looked at the sixth dimension Tendo, and smiled. Okay. Definitely possible. The sixth dimension Tendo nodded slightly. Then wait for a moment, I will go call people. After saying that, she disappeared. At this time, a voice resounded from the side of the sixth dimension Tendo. With your strength, you could have forcefully broken the universe barrier and captured her. As long as you devour her, your strength will become even stronger. Moon Yanyan smiled slightly. Kind and honest people should not be bullied. She is very kind, so I will not bully her. After saying that, she slowly closed her eyes and smiled lightly. What is the point of bullying kind and honest people? If I, Mu Nianyan, want to bully, I will bully evil people. Chapter 1177. The sixth dimension Tendo did not know that if she had any evil thoughts towards the fifth dimension, she would have been dead. In the fifth dimension, with the arrival of the spirit realm's army, the entire fifth dimension became anxious. But soon, the spirit realm announced that they were only here for Yi Xian. Not only that, the people of the fifth dimension could also join the spirit realm Saint Church and convert. This conversion was compulsory. Wherever the experts of the spirit realm passed, anyone who did not convert would be killed. After converting, they had to believe in the Saint Church leader Baizong and pray for the Baizong Saint Church for 6 hours every day. Although many fifth dimension experts were disgusted by the spirit realm's coercion, no one dared to resist. This was because the spirit realm's strength could crush the fifth dimension. No one went to join Yi Xian because in their opinion, Yi Xian's side had no chance of winning. The spirit realm did not directly attack the void dimension. Instead, they slowly advanced because the Saint Church wanted to recruit people. In less than 2 days, the number of disciples of the Saint Church increased by several million. Moreover, the number was increasing every day. In the starry sky, Guansheng closed his eyes and placed his hands behind his back. The starry sky around him surged. At this time, Baizong and Immemorial Yuan appeared beside Guansheng. Baizong's face was full of smiles. In this period of time, his Saint Church had gained the most. Because his Saint Church now had several million more disciples. At this time, Guanxing suddenly said, "If you were Yi Xian, what would you do?" Immemorial Yuan looked towards the void dimension. He will not surrender because he knows that we want his life. Therefore, he will resist with everything he has. Baizong nodded. Although we have the strength to crush him, we cannot be careless. It is better to be safe than sorry. Guansheng smiled. I am more concerned about the Tendo. She should already know of our arrival, but she has not made any moves. This is not normal. Tendo. Baizong and Immemorial Yuan's expressions changed slightly. If they could devour this kind of heaven and earth spirit, it would be very beneficial for them. Immemorial Yuan suddenly said, Brother Guansheng, do you want to deal with the Tendo first? Guansheng shook his head. He's hidden himself. I can't find him. As he spoke, he paused for a moment before continuing. You too, do not underestimate this heaven's way. This person cannot be compared to the spirit of the spirit realm. Her strength should be extraordinary. Otherwise, she would not have been able to escape my search. Primeval Yuan nodded. Not only him, that Yi Xian can't be underestimated as well. We have to make preparations to deal with everything. Guanxing nodded. Yi Xian isn't simple either. In short, we can't be careless. Also, if we make a move, we have to use our full strength. We mustn't give them any chance. As he spoke, he looked at Baizong. Brother Baizong, we can postpone the recruitment of believers. Baizong said. To the void dimension? Guansheng nodded slightly. After we get rid of Yi Xian, everyone in this world will become your brother Baizong's believers. Baizong smiled faintly. It is my duty to save all living beings. Guansheng laughed. Let's go. Let's see if this Yi Xian will give us any surprises. As he spoke, he disappeared on the spot. Soon, the experts of Spirit Realm sped up and headed for the void dimension. At the Wu clan, Yi Xian stood outside a grave. Inside the grave were Lanxiu and the others. Although Yi Ling and the others hadn't broken through yet, there were already powerful auras coming from the grave. Clearly, someone was about to come out. At this moment, senior sister Lu appeared. Beside Yi Xian. They're here. They're here. Yi Xian smiled slightly. Let's go. As he spoke, he turned and left. 2 hours later, the army of Spirit Realm appeared at the entrance of the void dimension. Yi Xian appeared with the experts of Sword Sect. Seeing Yi Xian, Guansheng smiled and said, The book in your hand, are you going to give it to us yourself, or do you want me to come and take it? Yi Xian smiled and said, Come and take it yourself. Guansheng nodded slightly. All right. As he spoke, he was about to act. At this time, a woman suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. The person who came was Xiao Dao. Xiao Dao looked at Guansheng. Your opponent is me.
Guansheng looked at Xiao Dao and said with a smile, Eldest miss of a demon Dao family, are you really going to interfere in the matter between us and Yi Xian? Xiao Dao said calmly, Can't I? Guansheng smiled and said, You brought about your own destruction. You can't blame anyone else.
As he spoke, he looked at Primeval Yuan beside him. Primeval Yuan took a step forward, and the entire galaxy trembled. Seeing this scene, the expressions of Amu and the others became extremely grave. Primeval Yuan smiled and said, Where is my opponent? At this time, a powerful aura suddenly came from Yi Xian's body. The next moment, a shadow floated out of his body. The 9th floor. The one who came out of the 9th floor was not his real body, but a shadow. Primeval Yuan frowned slightly when he saw the 9th floor. Who the hell are you? The 9th floor exploded with rage. I'm your father. As soon as he finished speaking, he charged forward. Primeval Yuan smashed his fist forward. Bang! The space and the surroundings cracked apart in the face of this punch. However, the 9th floor punched out as well. Compared to Primeval Yuan, his punch seemed to be very calm, but when his punch collided with Primeval Yuan's fist, Primeval Yuan was instantly pushed over 1 kilometer back. However, the 9th floor had returned to his original position. Guansheng's brows knit together slightly when he witnessed this scene. The 9th floor's strength had slightly exceeded his expectations. Yi Xian was quite surprised as well. He's really good at fighting. Primeval Yuan gazed at the 9th floor and laughed coldly. You have some ability. The 9th floor waved his hand. Don't put on an act in front of me. I was once a great figure as well, and I refuse to submit to anyone besides that woman in a plain dress. Yi Xian suddenly asked, Where's the green-clothed man? The 9th floor gazed at Yi Xian and spoke furiously. Shut the fuck up. You bastard. Yi Xian was speechless. The 9th floor gazed at Primeval Yuan. Come. Let's have a good fight. Let's go somewhere else. As soon as he finished speaking, he vanished into the horizon. Primeval Yuan laughed coldly, and then he vanished as well. It didn't take long for the sounds of their battle to resound from afar. Baizong, who stood by Guansheng's side, walked out from below. He gazed at Yi Xian and grinned. Yi Xian, do you know that countless people behind you are going to die because of your resistance? How can you be so selfish? Yi Xian smiled. What? You want me to surrender? Baizong spoke seriously. If you die, then the old man guarantees that the people behind you won't have to die. They'll convert to my hallowed halls and become believers of my hallowed halls. The old man will help them cleanse the sins of their sins. Yi Xian blinked and said, Really? Baizong nodded. Of course. Yi Xian said seriously, Based on my years of experience, you are one of those hypocrites. You do bad things, but you still want to stand on the side of you do bad things, yet you still act like you're doing it for your own good. Baizong shook his head as he spoke. I despise people like you the most. You want to be a whore yet maintain your chastity. Baizong gazed at Yi Xian with an expressionless face. How thick-headed! As soon as he finished speaking, he was about to attack. However, an invisible pressure suddenly appeared here, and then a middle-aged man appeared in front of Yi Xian. It was none other than Wu Jing. Guansheng frowned slightly when he saw Wu Jing from the upper dimension. Wu Jing smiled and said, Yes. Guansheng gazed at Wu Jing and said, I knew that there might be some changes in the situation, but I never imagined that the upper dimension would actually stand on their side. I really don't understand. Hallmaster Wu, can you tell me what blinded your mind and made you actually make such a stupid decision? Everyone here was quite surprised, and even Yi Xian himself was quite surprised, because he hadn't expected that Wu Jing from the upper dimension would actually lend him a hand. Weren't these fellows on the spirit territory's side? Wu Jing smiled. There's no need to talk so much. Just fight. Guansheng shook his head and sighed. Since it's like that, then I'll annihilate your upper dimension as well. As soon as he finished speaking, Baizong vanished on the spot. Wu Jing suddenly vanished on the spot. Bang! A world-shaking explosion suddenly resounded, and then a powerful aura surged towards the surroundings, causing countless experts in the surroundings to retreat. Crack! The space in the surroundings gradually started to crack inch by inch. Yi Xian's brows knit together slightly when he witnessed this scene. He opened his palm and swiped it lightly,
and it didn't take long for the space around him to be repaired by his spatial Tao laws. Meanwhile, Guanxing suddenly waved his right hand, and then the space around him and behind him was instantly repaired. Meanwhile, Wu Jing and Baizong stopped moving at the same time. Baizong gazed at Wu Jing. Interesting. Wu Jing smiled. This place is too small, and it isn't suitable for us to fight to our heart's content. Shall we go somewhere else and fight to our heart's content? Baizong nodded. That's exactly what I wanted. As soon as he finished speaking, both of them vanished at the same time. Guansheng gazed at Yi Xian and said, "Is there anyone else?" Yi Xian shook his head. "No." Guansheng grinned. "But I have others." As he spoke, he gazed at Xiao Dao. "Miss Xiao Dao, you can stop me, but you can't stop the people behind me, right?" Xiao Dao's face was emotionless. "You talk a lot of nonsense." Guansheng roared with laughter, and then he waved his right hand. The people behind him were about to attack. But right at this moment, over a dozen formidable auras suddenly descended from the sky. In the next moment, a middle-aged man appeared in front of Yi Xian, and there were 10 more people behind the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was actually at the half-step self-release realm. Moreover, all the people behind him were peak returnance realm experts. Everyone here was stunned when they witnessed this scene. The middle-aged man turned around to gaze at Yi Xian, and then he grinned. "I'm Li Chunfeng from the Martial Hall of the Sixth Dimension. I've specially come to assist young Master Yi on the orders of Hall Master Wen." The Sixth Dimension. Yi Xian was stunned. Why has the Sixth Dimension come down to help? Everyone here was slightly stunned as well. Especially Xiao Dao. She hadn't expected that the Sixth Dimension would come down to help at all. Guansheng stared fixedly at Li Chunfeng. "What's wrong with the Sixth Dimension?" Li Chunfeng turned around to gaze at Guansheng and spoke indifferently. "Young Master Yi, you actually dared to make a move? Has the spirit realm gone too far?" Young Master Yi. Everyone in the surroundings was speechless. Chapter 1178. Young Master Yi. Yi Xian had a slightly strange expression on his face. There's something off about the Sixth Dimension. Amu and the others had extremely strange expressions on their faces as well. Today was truly too strange. First the Ascendant Dimension had come to help, and now the Sixth Dimension. This wasn't normal. Guansheng's expression was extremely unsightly. He knew that the situation might change, but he hadn't expected that both the Ascendant Dimension and the Sixth Dimension would come to help Yi Xian. Guansheng stared fixedly at Li Chunfeng. Why? Everyone looked at Li Chunfeng as well. They were curious about why the Sixth Dimension would come to help. Li Chunfeng spoke indifferently. "Why ask so many questions? Doesn't your spirit realm want to fight? We'll fight with you." Guansheng laughed fiercely. "Since all of you want to die, then I'll fulfill your wish." As soon as he finished speaking, a black-robed old man suddenly appeared behind him, and then he vanished. Meanwhile, Li Chunfeng suddenly smashed his fist forward. Bang! In an instant, the space in an area of over 100 kilometers collapsed. Li Chunfeng retreated by over 1 kilometer. However, the black-robed old man didn't take even half a step back. Yi Xian frowned at the sight of this. Another half-step self-release realm expert has arrived. Li Chunfeng glanced at the black-robed old man, and then he vanished. Meanwhile, the space in front of him suddenly exploded apart, and then the black-robed old man smashed his right fist forward. It was just a simple punch, but the space in front of him instantly became illusory. Soundlessly, Li Chunfeng retreated thousands of meters. The black-robed old man had his right hand behind his back as he took a step forward and grabbed at Yi Xian. Yi Xian's face was expressionless, but the blood within him had started to stir. He knew that he could only fight such an expert by activating his bloodline. Right at the moment when he was about to activate his bloodline, Li Chunfeng appeared in front of him again. A trace of ferocity flashed through his eyes as he suddenly pressed his palms together and pushed them forward. Hiss! Wherever his hand landed, the space instantly cracked open, and a powerful force swept out like a flood. Boom! The black-clothed old man was forcefully stopped by this force. Meanwhile, the black-clothed old man suddenly turned illusory, and Li Chunfeng vanished along with him. Rumble! Along with a world-shaking explosion, the space here was obliterated inch by inch. At this moment, Guanxing suddenly looked at Yi Xian and sneered. "Do you have anyone else? If you don't, I have more." As soon as he finished speaking,
An old man holding a bamboo cane suddenly appeared behind him. Half-step self-release realm powerhouse.
The expressions of Xiao Dao and the others in the distance instantly darkened when they saw this scene. This spirit realm was much stronger than they had imagined. Guansheng gazed at Yi Xian and said with a smile, "I've always heard that you have many backers behind you. For example, that woman in a plain dress, or that man in a green robe who once heavily injured my spirit of 9
Call them out."
Li Chunfeng's expression instantly changed drastically, and he gazed at Guansheng and said furiously, "Are you a fucking retard?
A woman in a plain dress?
Li Chunfeng was terrified of that woman. After all, the guardians of the United Hall were much stronger than him. But what had happened in the end? He'd been instantly annihilated by a single swing of the sword. He hadn't even had the chance to fight back. Call the woman out? Damn it! That woman had almost destroyed the sixth dimension with a single swing of the sword.
Call her out to destroy the world?
What sort of gods are there in spirit realm? Guansheng gazed at Li Chunfeng and frowned. Is there something wrong with you? Li Chunfeng stared fixedly at Guansheng. Do you know the woman in a plain dress? Guansheng spoke indifferently. What? Is your sixth dimension very afraid of her? Li Chunfeng frowned slightly and was slightly puzzled. Could it be that your spirit realm isn't afraid of her? Guansheng laughed coldly. How laughable! Why would my spirit realm be afraid of her? Li Chunfeng suddenly turned around to look at Yi Xian and the others. Does the woman in a plain dress keep a very low profile in the lower dimensions? Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and said, She practically doesn't fight.
Li Chunfeng was speechless.
At this moment, he finally understood why spirit realm wasn't afraid of the woman in a plain dress. Because they were ignorant, they were fearless. Li Chunfeng looked at Yi Xian and couldn't help but ask, Why is she so low-key? Yi Xian spread his hands. I don't know either. Li Chunfeng. At this time, Guanxing suddenly said, Is your sixth dimension very afraid of her? Li Chunfeng looked at Guansheng. No, we're not afraid of her at all.
She's very weak. Just F*King do your best.
With that, he charged directly at the black-robed old man. At this moment, he didn't want to say anything more. Because he knew that Guansheng wouldn't believe him no matter what he said. Everyone, Guansheng looked coldly at Li Chunfeng and then at Yi Xian. Kill! As his voice fell, the old man with a bamboo cane behind him suddenly walked toward Yi Xian, the space around him trembling violently with every step. At the same time, a powerful presence directly enveloped Yi Xian. Xiao Dao frowned slightly and was about to make a move, but a powerful aura instantly locked onto her. Guansheng. Guansheng looked at Xiao Dao and smiled. Miss Xiao Dao, it's best if you don't make a move.
Xiao Dao fell silent.
She knew that if she made a move, Guansheng would definitely make a move. At this time, the old man with a bamboo cane had already walked 100 zhong in front of Yi Xian. He looked at Yi Xian, and an invisible pressure swept out. In the distance, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes, and the blood in his body that had originally calmed down began to stir restlessly again. But at this time, a sword cry suddenly came from the horizon, and the next moment, a sword light slashed directly in front of Yi Xian. Boom! The old man's aura was directly shattered, and then a sword light fell in front of Yi Xian. The person who had come was Arrow. Arrow had already broken through his realm and sword Dao. Seeing Arrow, Yi Xian was very happy, but he was also a little speechless. In fact, he also wanted to make a move. He also wanted to have a good battle with this kind of legendary elite who was half a step into the self-release tier. Because after devouring the death chi in the nether spirit world, he didn't know what his current battle prowess was. Seeing Arrow, the distant Guansheng frowned slightly. Shattering void tier? Arrow looked at Guansheng. Shattering void tier. Guansheng looked at the old man with a bamboo cane, and the latter said softly, Not simple. Arrow looked at the old man with a bamboo cane, and in the next moment, she directly turned into a sword light and disappeared on the spot. Chi! The space in front of Arrow directly split open, and the powerful sword chi caused everyone present to be moved. Even Yi Xian was extremely shocked. The aura of a Luo swordsmanship was so strong. She had made another breakthrough in her swordsmanship. In the distance, the elites of the sword sect were also looking at Arrow, and they were extremely shocked by Arrow's attainments in the sword Dao. In the distance, the old man with a bamboo cane frowned slightly. He didn't dare to be careless, and he lightly twirled his right hand. In an instant, The space around him directly transformed into a vortex, and the sword light directly distorted when it arrived in front of him. However, Arrow didn't retreat, and instead directly stabbed her sword into the vortex. Boom! A wave of sword light erupted, and Arrow instantly returned to her original position. Although the old man with a bamboo cane didn't retreat, there was a trace of seriousness in his eyes. The old man was just about to attack when Guanyin suddenly said, "I'll do it." Everyone looked at Guanyin, and then Guanyin walked towards Arrow. "I'll fight her." Arrow looked at Guanyin, and then didn't waste any words. She directly transformed into a ray of sword light that shot forward. Guanyin lightly stomped her right foot, and a ray of sword light slashed out from beneath her feet. The two rays of sword light collided. Boom! The sword light shattered. It was at this moment that Guanyin suddenly vanished from where she stood. In the blink of an eye, several sword lights tore through the space in front of her. In the distance, Luo slowly closed her eyes, and in the next moment, she stabbed out with her sword. Hiss! The three rays of sword light in front of her were instantly transformed into nothingness. After that, she took a step forward and stabbed her sword again. A single strike to pierce through the void. Space instantly became illusory in the wake of this attack. It was like an illusory realm. Guan Shang's expression changed when he witnessed this scene, and he was just about to attack when Xiao Dao appeared in front of him. Xiao Dao gazed at Guan Shang. "It's better for you to stand." Guan Shang was just about to attack when the howl of a sword resounded from afar. He hurriedly looked over, and he saw Guan Yin attacking as well. Guan Yin's sword was similar to Luo's, and it seemed both real and illusory. It was like a mirror image, and it gave off an ethereal feeling. Everyone watched as the two rays of sword light collided. Boom! An expanse of sword light suddenly erupted. In an instant, the two women retreated madly. However, right at this moment, Luo suddenly stabbed his sword towards his own throat. In the distance, Guan Yin's expression changed drastically, and she raised her sword to block. Boom! In an instant, the sword in her hand exploded. She reacted quickly and pointed her finger forward like a sword. Hiss! Her finger broke as soon as she pointed, and she hurriedly raised her left hand to block. Hiss! Her left hand split into two without any warning, but she had already retreated hundreds of meters away. When she stopped, a ray of sword light suddenly slashed at her. Guan Yin's pupils constricted, and she roared, "Heart sword!" As soon as she finished speaking, a ray of sword light suddenly slashed out from her body. Boom! As soon as the ray of sword light slashed out, she was sent flying. In the distance, Arrow slashed his sword at his throat again. Seeing this scene, Guan Yin's pupils constricted to the size of needles. At this moment, the old man with the bamboo cane suddenly appeared in front of her, and he lightly tapped his bamboo cane forward. Boom! A wave of sword light exploded. The bamboo cane in the old man's hand instantly cracked. Arrow looked at the old man, and the old man said softly, "Let the old man have a taste of your sword." As soon as he finished speaking, he vanished on the spot. In the distance, Arrow held the immortal sword between her eyebrows, and in the next moment, she slashed with it. Open! As the sword slashed out, the space in front of her split apart. At this moment, a shadow flashed by, and the shadow collided with Arrow's sword. Boom! The space where Arrow stood was instantly reduced to nothingness, and the space was forcefully erased. Following that, sounds of fighting could be heard coming from the void. At this moment, Guan Sheng turned to look at Yi Xian. "Do you have anyone else?" Yi Xian thought about it, and then he said seriously, "I don't know." The crowd was speechless. Guan Shang stared at Yi Xian. "To be honest, I really want to see the person behind you, because I heard that the person behind you is very powerful. Don't worry, the spirit realm has a trump card, and we are prepared to face anything, even if the plain-dressed woman behind you appears." Yi Xian looked at Guan Shang. "You want to see the plain-dressed woman?" Guan Sheng smiled. "Yes. I heard that she reached the legendary self-release realm, and I want to see a self-release realm expert." Chapter 1179. Experience. Guan Shang said it very calmly, as if he was talking about a very simple matter. Arrogance? No, he was confident. Half-step self-release realm. For people like them, half-step self-release realm was already the limit. Self-release realm? He knew how difficult it was. In other words, it was simply impossible. Everything in the world was in the Tao. Who could surpass the great Tao? In his view, to surpass everything, surpass the great Tao, that was impossible. Due to this, he did not believe that the plainly dressed woman was a self-release realm expert. Of course, even if she was, it did not matter. He could see the power of a self-release realm expert. At this time, Guansheng looked up at the stars. In this moment, he saw a person. Tendo. In the stars, the Tendo looked down at Guansheng and smiled slightly. Guansheng smiled lightly and said, "If she does not appear, I will be very disappointed." The Tendo smiled and said, "Ignorance makes one fearless." Guansheng laughed. "Ignorance? Tendo, you fear the plainly dressed woman because you have never seen true power. Because you are weak, you fear." In the stars, the Tendo looked at Guansheng and said with a smile, "Well said, very well said. Listening to a wise man is better than studying for 10 years. I have learned." Finishing, she turned and left. When Guansheng looked away, the Tendo giggled. A voice suddenly sounded next to the Tendo. "Why not wake him up?" Tiandao grinned and said, "If a mischievous brat provokes you for no reason, don't go and enlighten him. It's because it's useless most of the time. Not only is it useless, you might even get into trouble. It's because outsiders might say that an adult like you is actually being calculative with a child. The correct thing to do is to give him a candied haw and tell him that you did a good job." The voice. The Tendo walked into the distance. "Those who make mistakes should be punished." The voice said, "If you prove to Spirit Realm that the plainly dressed woman is strong, they will stop." The Tendo blinked. "Why should I prove to them?" The voice said softly, "Many will die." The Tendo smiled and said, "Pity is fine, but pity also depends on the target. We should be merciful to the good, but we should be cruel to the evil." After a moment of silence, the voice said, "Is this why you didn't destroy the living beings in this universe?" Tendo smiled. "Humans are wrong, but at the end of the day, it's not entirely their fault. They were born in this universe and were born under the rules of the strong. If they didn't cultivate, they wouldn't be able to change their fate. The weak did not even have the right to live. Therefore, I can understand why they want to cultivate. If it's wrong, it's the laws of this world that are wrong." The voice said, "You want to change the rules?" Tendo blinked. "Isn't it obvious?" The voice asked again, "Is he the person you chose?" The Tendo smiled. "What do you think?" The voice said, "Not good. His murderousness is too strong." Tendo rolled his eyes to the right. "Please, I didn't ask him to be a good person. Changing the rules will result in bloodshed. How can a good person deal with so many villains?" The voice said, "What do you see in him?" The Tendo smiled. "He has the ruler of good and evil in his heart. He can distinguish between good and evil. In reality, this guy has many fatal flaws. Most of the time he is flexible, but most of the time, he is very stubborn. Like this time, I told him to leave, but he didn't. Why didn't he leave? Because he is the kind of person who won't betray others if they don't betray him. If this guy encountered a scheming person, he would be tricked to death. For example, if I asked him to help me now, even if I had to ask him to risk his life, he would do it because I helped him before. He is not vicious enough. Of course he cannot be too vicious. He has no principles at all. He is ambitious. He is a hypocrite." The voice said in a deep voice, "It's very complicated." The Tendo smiled. She glanced at the starry sky around her and said softly, "In the past, I wanted to be simple. I wanted to directly destroy all the living beings in this universe. In less than 10,000 years, this universe will recover on its own." The voice said, "Then why did you change your mind?" The Tendo smiled. "Later on, I discovered that the reason why this universe is beautiful is because there is life. Think about it, if there is no life in this universe, how lonely it would be." The voice was silent. The Tendo suddenly looked up at the depths of the starry sky and said softly, "Unfortunately, there is no perfect thing in this world." The voice said in a deep voice, "I feel that you are very lonely." The Tendo blinked and said with a smile, "Nonsense, haha." The voice was about to speak when the Tendo suddenly said, "There is an outsider." The voice said, "Who?" The Tendo smiled. "A problem. I have to block for him." She had just finished speaking when the space in front of her was suddenly forcefully torn apart. Immediately after, a middle-aged man walked out. The middle-aged man was tall and held a flaming sword in his hand. His body emitted a formless pressure. This pressure caused the surrounding starry sky to surge violently like boiling water. It was extremely shocking. The middle-aged man looked at the Tendo with cold eyes, as if he was looking at an ant. "You are the Tendo here." The Tendo smiled. "Yes. I presume that your excellency is from that legendary demon Dao family, right?" The person was stunned and said, "You know of my demon Dao family?" The Tendo said seriously, "The demon Dao family controls thousands of worlds. Who doesn't know of it in this universe? Who doesn't know?" The person sized up the Tendo. "Find me a person." The Tendo blinked. "Is it Demon Xiao Dao? Your family's young miss?" The person looked at the Tendo and frowned. "You know this too." The Tendo smiled. "I guessed it." The person was expressionless. "Bring her to see me." The Tendo giggled. "May I ask why you're bringing her back?" The person's eyes narrowed. "This isn't something that a tiny Tendo like you should care about. If you don't want your soul to be destroyed, then bring her to see me immediately." The Tendo thought for a moment and said, "Let's talk in a different way." After she finished speaking, she tapped the person lightly. Freeze. In an instant, a mysterious force locked the person down. At this moment, the person was horrified, because he discovered that he was actually unable to move. The person looked at the Tendo with extreme shock. You actually, this is absolutely impossible. You? The Tendo clapped her hands and smiled. "Why have you come looking for Xiao Dao?" The person hesitated for a moment and said, "Take her back to get married." "Get married?" The Tendo blinked, and then she waved her hand. "You're too late." The person frowned. Your Excellency, what do you mean?" The Tendo said seriously, "Miss Xiao Dao has already gotten married to my brother, Yi Xian. They have even entered the bridal chamber." Hearing this, the person flew into a rage. How can eldest miss marry a lowly bloodline? The Tendo looked at the person with a spurious smile. "Watch what you say." The person's face twitched. He didn't dare to be stubborn in front of the Tendo. He hesitated for a moment and said, "Marry your brother? May I ask what is your brother's cultivation level?" The Tendo turned to look and said, "He seems to have just reached the rebirth state not long ago." The person's face was filled with disbelief. "Is he that weak?" The Tendo giggled. "Actually, his strength has little to do with his cultivation level." The person glanced at the Tendo with a face full of disbelief. "I'll listen to your nonsense." The Tendo smiled. "I won't kill you. Go back and tell your family head that Xiao Dao has already married my brother. After some time, my brother will bring her to visit your family head." The person was silent. The Tendo giggled. "Do you think that my brother is not worthy of your eldest miss?" The person was silent and didn't dare to speak. At this moment, he didn't dare to say anything harsh. Not to mention harsh words, he didn't even dare to say something inappropriate. His life was more important. As a person, he had to be a coward when necessary. The Tendo looked at the person and said seriously, "Let me tell you, whether you admit it or not, your eldest miss is already my brother's woman. If you don't admit this marriage or want to take revenge on my brother, us 4 sisters will not agree." The person looked at the Tendo. 4 sisters. The Tendo nodded. "Yes, my brother has 4 sisters." As she spoke, she waved her right hand and 3 portraits suddenly appeared in front of the person. These 4 portraits were of a woman in a plain dress, a woman in a white robe, and Yi Ling who was holding a strange thorn. The Tendo pointed at the portrait of the woman in a plain dress. "This is my big sister. Yes, she isn't here right now. But I believe that with your strength, you should be able to find her. If your demon Dao clans are dissatisfied with this marriage, then you can look for her. She will give you a very reasonable explanation." The person glanced at the portrait of the woman in a plain dress and said, "Compared to you, who is stronger?" He didn't know how strong the woman in a plain dress was, but he was able to sense how strong the Tendo before him was. Of course, it was only a rough sense. He still didn't know the true strength of the Tendo. The Tendo glanced at the portrait of the woman in a plain dress and said casually, "I often spar with my big sister. Our chances are 50-50. 50-50. The person nodded slightly. "I understand." The Tendo smiled. "You can go back now." The person bowed slightly.
Thank you.
After saying that, he directly turned around and disappeared into the starry sky. After the person left, a voice suddenly resounded from the side of the Tendo. Aren't you drawing hatred to him? The Tendo said seriously. Is Xiao Dao a friend of him? The voice said. Sort of. The Tendo said again. You see, Xiao Dao helped him so much. It isn't too much for him to help him, right? The voice hesitated for a moment and said, It isn't too much. The Tendo smiled. Then do you think I'm too much? The voice said, The Tendo said again. You see, I helped him beat that person back just now. If I didn't beat that person back, wouldn't his situation become even worse once that person went down? The voice fell silent. The Tendo continued, I helped him deal with a great enemy. Shouldn't he thank me? The voice said softly, But you also made a great enemy for him. The Tendo blinked and then said, Let's change the topic. The night sky tonight is not bad. The voice. P.S. Recently, there have been some scammers in the book review section, saying that the book is already finished and you can buy the rest for a few dozen yuan. Some readers have been fooled. Then he chased after me and scolded me for at least half a month. Oh my God, I'm so aggrieved. Brothers, you have to be more careful. You've been reading my book for so long. Don't you know that I'm a person who treats money like dirt? Why would I do such a scam? At most, I'll scam some monthly votes from time to time. Really, that reader chased me and scolded me for half a month. Of course, it's not the reader's fault, it's the scammer's fault. Damn, I don't know why, but the book review section has been full of scammers and liars.
Chapter 1180.
Down below, Guansheng looked at Yi Xian and said with a smile, Looks like the woman in the plain dress behind you is not coming out.
Yi Xian smiled. Let's fight one-on-one? Guansheng sized up Yi Xian. Are you joking with me? You're only in the rebirth realm. Yi Xian smiled. Can one's realm represent everything? Guansheng looked at Yi Xian. Are you trying to say that you're in the boundless realm? Yi Xian said seriously. Can't I?
Guansheng shook his head.
You're too good at bullshitting.
Then he looked at Xiao Dao. He wants to fight me one-on-one. What do you think?
Xiao Dao looked at Yi Xian. Are you serious? Yi Xian nodded.
Xiao Dao pondered for a moment, then nodded. If you die, I'll do my best to keep your corpse intact.
If you die, I'll do my best to keep your corpse intact.
Yi Xian's face darkened. What the F***ck? Do you know how to talk?
Xiao Dao ignored Yi Xian and retreated to the side.
Yi Xian looked at Guansheng, and Guansheng smiled. You make the first move.
Yi Xian nodded and disappeared on the spot.
In the distance, Guansheng pressed his right hand. Lock! In an instant, the space around Yi Xian shrank and stacked, but at this moment, the space Dao Law appeared between Yi Xian's brows, and the space around him instantly returned to normal. At this moment, a sword appeared in front of Guansheng. Guansheng put his hands together and pinched Yi Xian's sword. Very accurately, he pinched Yi Xian's sword and gave it a light squeeze. Boom! The sword shook violently, and Yi Xian retreated a few hundred feet. Guansheng looked at Yi Xian and smiled. No! Yi Xian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said with a smile. Again! As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly appeared in front of Guansheng once more, and then he slashed his sword down towards Guansheng. Guansheng pressed his palms together once more. However, right at this moment, the sword in Yi Xian's hand had suddenly transformed into a blood-red sword.
Suddenly changing swords. Guansheng's expression changed, but it was too late to stop. He could only use his palm to block Yi Xian's sword. Boom! Blood exploded as Guansheng retreated dozens of meters. When he came to a stop, his palm had been split open all the way up to his arm. Seeing this scene, Guan Yin's face instantly turned gloomy. He raised his head to look at Yi Xian in the distance. Just as he was about to speak, Yi Xian suddenly disappeared on the spot. Chi! A strand of blood-red light flashed through the battlefield. Guansheng pointed his finger and a ray of black light swept out. Within the black light, a ferocious face suddenly appeared. Boom! In an instant, Yi Xian's blood-red ray of light shattered into pieces. Meanwhile, a voice suddenly resounded in Guansheng's mind. Don't waste time with him or something unexpected might happen. It was Primeval Yuan's voice. Guansheng pondered deeply for a moment when he heard Primeval Yuan, and then he gazed at Yi Xian. In the next moment,
He suddenly transformed into a ray of black light that vanished on the spot, and then a powerful aura swept through the surroundings.
Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes.
He knew that Guanxing didn't want to waste any more time.
Yi Xian took a step forward, and then the sword domain suddenly appeared.
However, his countenance instantly turned pale at this moment. Because that force was truly too strong. As soon as the sword domain appeared, that powerful aura was suppressed. But in the next moment, that powerful aura seemed like a collapsing mountain, and it smashed down towards Yi Xian with unstoppable might. Yi Xian opened his palm, and then countless strands of death energy instantly swept out from within him.
The death domain.
At the instant that the death domain appeared, that powerful aura was instantly suppressed by the two domains.
Yi Xian suddenly attacked with his sword.
Hiss! A ray of blood-red light slashed through the two domains.
At this moment, Guansheng's expression changed. Two domains.
He truly never imagined that Yi Xian actually possessed two domains. Guanxing didn't dare underestimate Yi Xian at all while being suppressed by these two domains.
He took a step back and smashed his fist forward.
A wisp of blood instantly seeped out from the corner of Yi Xian's mouth. Meanwhile, the sword arrived before him. Bang! As soon as the sword and fist collided, a powerful force suddenly erupted from within Yi Xian's domain, and then Yi Xian's attack was instantly stopped. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly pressed the fingers of his left hand together and pointed forward. Slash! As soon as he finished speaking, a ray of black light suddenly flew out from within him and slashed at Guansheng.
The soul-suppressing sword.
Guansheng's eyes narrowed slightly when the soul-suppressing sword appeared, and then he suddenly pressed his left palm forward. A strand of formidable physical strength swept out like an erupting volcano from within his palm.
Rumble!
The space they resided in was instantly transformed into nothingness while Yi Xian retreated explosively. He just stopped moving when Guansheng suddenly clenched his right hand towards him from afar. Shatter!
Crack!
A strand of formidable energy suddenly condensed around Yi Xian, and then Yi Xian's expression changed drastically. Because he noticed that his body was cracking apart layer by layer.
Yi Xian suddenly stomped his right foot on the ground.
Converge! As soon as he spoke, the sword domain and death domain appeared once more, and the mysterious energy within him was instantly suppressed. At the same time, the heart of vitality and the death energy within his body started to repair his body at a maddening rate, and it wasn't long before all his injuries were completely healed.
Guansheng's brows instantly knit together when he witnessed this scene. His recovery speed is actually so swift.
This isn't normal at all. Guansheng gazed at Yi Xian as he opened his palm, and then a black vortex suddenly appeared at the center of his palm. At the instant that the black vortex appeared, the space in the surroundings suddenly dimmed down.
Death energy.
Right at this moment, Guanyin hurriedly said, "Don't use the death energy." Guansheng's brows knit together slightly as he gazed at Yi Xian. He noticed that Yi Xian had started to madly devour the death energy in the surroundings. Guansheng's face fell when he witnessed this scene. "You're poisonous." As he spoke, he slowly clenched his right fist, and the death energy in the surroundings vanished. He noticed that he could only utilize his normal strength to deal with Yi Xian, and some of his trump cards couldn't be utilized at all. In the distance, Yi Xian closed his eyes slowly. He noticed that while his cultivation couldn't compare to Guansheng, he could utilize his two domains and his own body to make up for the gap in their cultivations. However, he couldn't do anything to Guansheng. It was extremely difficult for him to kill an expert at Guansheng's level right now. Of course, it wasn't that easy for Guansheng to kill him as well. His combat strength wasn't sufficient. The gap in cultivation level. Yi Xian looked at Guansheng in the distance. If he reached the shattering void tier, he was confident that he could kill Guansheng. In the distance, Guansheng had also thought of this. Right now, Yi Xian was only in the rebirth tier. If Yi Xian was allowed to grow, at this thought, Guansheng's killing intent soared. He looked at Yi Xian and shouted, "Kill! Kill!" He no longer chose to fight one-on-one, and there was no need for him to do so. After all, the overall strength of their side was enough to crush Yi Xian's side. As soon as he finished speaking, countless elites of the spirit realm behind him charged towards Yi Xian's side. Seeing this, Xiao Dao's expression darkened. If they fought like this, Yi Xian's side definitely wouldn't be able to defeat them. Because the overall strength gap between the two sides was too great. It could be said that they didn't even have the strength to fight. At this moment, Over 100 swordsmen appeared behind Yi Xian. Seeing the charging elites of the spirit realm, the swordsmen didn't show the slightest bit of fear. In their eyes, there was only battle intent. Fight! Yi Xian turned around to look at the swordsman in front of him, and said with a smile, "Today, let us fight to our heart's content." As soon as he finished speaking, the sword in his hand suddenly trembled violently. In the next moment, his body gradually turned blood red. In the battlefield, countless swordsmen pointed their swords into the distance, and powerful auras of sword intent shook the sky. A great battle was about to begin. At this moment, the space above Yi Xian's head suddenly trembled violently. In the next moment, the space exploded, and soon, 3 women appeared above Yi Xian. Among them, Yi Xian recognized 2 of them. They were Yan Jia and Lian Qian. Yi Xian was stunned when he saw the 2 women. These 2 fellows had returned. On the other hand, Guanshang's expression turned gloomy. Damn it! There's still someone else. There's still someone behind Yi Xian. Is there an end to this? Above Yi Xian, the woman who led the group looked at Yi Xian. In the next moment, she transformed into a ray of black light and entered the space between Yi Xian's brows. At the same time, Lian Qian and Yan Jia transformed into 2 rays of light and entered the space between Yi Xian's brows as well. Yi Xian's body trembled, and the bloodline energy that hadn't been fully activated was suppressed. After that, an illusory image of Xiao Ta appeared between his brows. At the same time, a voice resounded in his mind. Dao laws return. Boom. The prison pagoda between his brows shook violently, and then a ray of golden light descended from the sky and entered Yi Xian's body. The golden light traversed the starry sky, and countless tiny golden characters flickered within it. In the starry sky, Tendo gazed at the golden light and chuckled. What a prophet! Under the 3 swords and 1 Dao, you are the first. Below, the experts of the spirit realm had already rushed in front of Yi Xian. At this moment, the golden light suddenly shook violently, and a mysterious power suddenly surged into Yi Xian's body. Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes. On his left and right, a tiny golden prisoner character appeared. On his right, there was a tiny Jin character. At this moment, Yi Xian was a stranger to everyone present. In the starry sky, Tendo looked at Yi Xian below, and the smile on his face gradually froze. In the 5th dimension, Yi Xian looked at the experts of the spirit realm charging towards him. His expression suddenly turned vicious and he roared, "Imprison!" Boom! In an instant, a tiny imprisoned character appeared above the heads of the dozens of experts in front of him. The moment this character appeared, the dozens of experts of the spirit realm were unable to move. Seeing this, the experts of the spirit realm were shocked. What kind of mystique was this? At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly roared, "Destroy!" As his voice fell, the dozens of super experts of the spirit realm turned illusory, and then disappeared without a sound. At this moment, Yi Xian's face instantly became as pale as paper, and the vitality in his body rapidly disappeared. But fortunately, he had the heart of life to heal him. Otherwise, that instant just now would have been enough to take his life. Because among the dozens of experts, there were more than 10 origin-breaking realm experts. After seeing Yi Xian instantly kill so many experts, the experts of the spirit realm immediately stopped. They looked at Yi Xian as if they were looking at a monster. Guanshang stared at Yi Xian, and no one knew what he was thinking. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly looked up at Guanshang and the other experts of the spirit realm. "Come over here. Everyone."